Welcome to Penance Basketball Live, and we are talking about very disappointing news for Scottie Barnes and also Pascal Siakam. I was always told this was Canada's team. I've always fought for that. Certainly, it was Canada's team when the Raptors were winning championships, when Kawhi Leonard was here and the Raptors were winning. Certainly, there was a lot of people. There were watch parties in British Columbia. There were little Raptor groups in Saskatoon. Shout outs to Saskatoon. There were people in Montreal who were willing to forego all their disdain for Toronto and Torontonians. And today, I have to say, I was absolutely heartbroken. This is ridiculous. Just the notion that a player this good could not beat out Kyle Kuzma, Mikal Bridges, Bam Adebayo, Paolo Banchero. Yeah, I don't care about the team record. Look at the player. This is the player. There are a handful of analytics that would show you that Scottie Barnes was anything but a top 15 player this year, and they are very few and far in between. The Raptors have struggled. A lot of people have tuned it out. This is Scottie in terms of value over replacement, a very good analytic to measure MVP voting. Almost every single year, the guy who is the leader in value over replacement is almost always going to get the MVP or have favorite odds for MVP. The players this year leading this list, no surprise, Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, all guys who have gotten considerable buzz for being MVP candidates. And then there's Giannis, LeBron, and Scottie Barnes. But hey, when I look at this list, I see all those other guys present, but I do not see Scottie Barnes. I see Karl-Anthony Towns. I see Austin Reeves. I see Klay Thompson. I see DeMar DeRozan, who's on a team that is even worse than Scottie. I see LaMelo Ball, again, on a team that is worse than Scottie's. What gives? What gives Toronto? What gives Canada? I don't get it. I mean, in all honesty, what more could you possibly ask for from a young American athlete who comes to Canada? I've heard all the buzz for the last 20 years that athletes don't want to play here. Here's a nice little video clip here of Scottie Barnes celebrating his Rookie of the Year in the offseason with his buddies in Montreal. Did they go to Punta Cana? Did they go to Galapagos? Did they go and just hang out in Miami or Florida, where they're from? No, he brought Floridians up to Canada. High school buddies. He decided Montreal was the place that he wanted to be, and he gave Montreal a very big shout out on social to his 600,000 plus followers. I don't know if the Toronto Raptors are Canada's team. That's what I've been told. But apparently, Scottie Barnes definitely thinks that they're Canada's team. This is him rocking a Christine Sinclair jersey. Is Scottie Barnes a huge soccer fan? No. This was a way for an athlete who plays, a male athlete who plays in a sport that is considerably more watched than female soccer, to do something very incredible and I think very tuned in. But it was for a Canadian national hero in Christine Sinclair before she played her final game and retired as one of the best ever female soccer players of all time. Shout outs to Mia Hamm, also one of the greatest. Here's Scottie Barnes. I believe this was Thanksgiving in the United States. What's he wearing? He's wearing a Leafs jersey. That's him with MLSE owner Larry Tannenbaum checking out a Leafs game on the road. He has a Google Pixel ad where he says, "This is my home." The second he was drafted, he had the presence of mind to write a Players Tribune article talking about all the wonderful things he wants to do in Canada. You know, for a city and a country that is in perpetual paranoia about American athletes not embracing their city, few have the way that Scottie has. Now, Last I checked, Canada has 38.8 million people. 38.8 million people. There are literally days like December 25th, January 1st, January 5th, which is, by the way, in 40 minutes, January 5th. So you'll be able to take action right after this video. January 12th and January 19th, I believe January 15th as well, where votes count for 3, which means that if even 1% of the Canadian population, that's just 1%. Toronto is more than 1%. If every Torontonian decided that they were going to make today in 40 minutes, national vote for Scottie Barnes to the All-Star game, I'll tell you how to do it. Vote.nba.com, search player, Scottie Barnes. That's it. I'm not asking you to vote for anybody else. You can vote for Emmanuel quickly. Absolutely. You can vote for Scott. You can vote for Pascal. You can vote for RJ. You can vote for whoever you want. But absolutely, you don't have to fill out the entire ballot. By the way, guys, to those of you voting Scottie and Giannis, you want to know what you just did? You just bumped him out. I've been trying to tell you for a week, don't do this. Now, there's good news and there's bad news. Bad news is a country of nearly 40 million people could not get Scottie Barnes ahead of Kyle Kuzma with 178,000 votes. Are we kidding here? If every single Torontonian voted, he would be easily near the top of this list within one day. Guess what? You could sign up for multiple accounts if you're a super diehard Raptor fan. I've been voting from 3 accounts. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I've been actually voting from 4 accounts, plus my girlfriend's got 2 accounts. Come on. We can do this. Does he not deserve this? What message are we giving to other athletes? I mean, you don't think that NBA coaches and NBA athletes are watching this? You don't think they see how good he is? And he can't even get these votes? And you're marketing yourself as Canada's team. Canada's this big country. Oh, over here. Oh, over there, you have a city behind you. Over here, you have a whole country behind you. And look how big the country is. Well, I mean, come on now. Now, I understand the Raptors have been pretty bad, and I understand a lot of people have kind of tuned it out. I get that. I do. But don't penalize him for this. He's not the one who put some of these players on this roster. He has done his best. His 3-point jump this year has been historical. Now, I seem to remember Scottie Barnes taking a lot of flack from the media, and I think I have a very good idea of why the momentum behind getting him to the All-Star game feels like pulling teeth sometimes. Here's him, during, it's not just Toronto Maple Leafs. You think he's a Torontonian snob. He's not. I mean, here he is rocking a Vancouver Canucks jersey when he was in Vancouver, when in Rome, right? I mean, this is a 22-year-old with a presence of mind that you don't understand. Now, in terms of where it comes from,
Barnes has been really, really good in just about all of these 7 games that he's played to start the season. But it's 7 games that I've been seeing. I'm actually less bothered by the statement he has arrived than some of these, people are talking about him being an all-star this season. And that to me seems a little crazy because it's 7 games. I remember there was a season where Andrea Bargnani got off to an amazing start. He had 13 incredible games.
Okay. You mean the guy who was the media's whipping boy last year for not working hard? You think maybe there's some residual layover from that? You think maybe, just maybe, the casual fan is a little bit dubious of the fact that Scottie Barnes may not really be an all-star because, well, Josh Lewinberg told them, and Doug Smith told them, and Michael Grange told them, and a lot of people have been very, very quick to point out to a very bad argument for Scottie. Small sample size. Well, now it's 30-plus games. Can we stop talking about small sample size now? Well, now he's on a bad team. Last year when I was telling people that he was the best player in the 2021 class, they said, but look at Cade's usage. Scottie will never be able to thrive with 25 to 26% usage. He is. He's got 25% usage now, and he's thriving. He's one of the best players in the league. Can we be real? This guy deserves to be an all-star. Now, you diminish it greatly by suggesting that all these other Raptors deserve to be all-stars. OG deserves to be an all-star. Pascal deserves. No. I mean, let's be real. All-star game is usually for the 24 to 25 best players in the league. Almost any given year, there are 40 all-stars. 14 or 15 are going to get snubbed. 2 or 3 are going to get injured. That's how you get your all-star team. I don't think there is an argument in the world that would suggest that this guy's not going to be an all-star. Now, I am pretty sure that even if he's not voted in by fans, that he's going to get in with the coaches. But I don't want to leave it up to the coaches. I really don't, because I did the math. Canada is, in fact, a huge country. In terms of population, it's not quite Turkey. Turkey has a population of 87 million, which explains Alper and Şengün getting 335,000 votes. Certainly. But can we just be real here for a second? This guy deserves this guy deserves your vote. He absolutely deserves your vote. And he deserves to be there. This is not unbridled homerism or fandom. I'm not telling you to vote for Grady Dick, even though I have been voting for Grady Dick, not gonna lie. No, I'm not telling you to vote for a guy who doesn't deserve it. He absolutely deserves it. So I think that in 36 minutes, you will start a day in which votes count for 3 times. Vote.nba.com. Okay. If towards the end of this live that we go a little bit longer, I might even share my screen and show people who maybe don't know how to do it how easy it is. It's really easy. Okay. We have 3 things to discuss today. It's probably going to be a shortish live. Let's get to some comments here. Voted again. Thank you so much. It's not Scottie, it's Canada and mayonnaise mania that continues to plague our athletes. Majority of Canadians don't watch basketball, and less than half are serious basketball fans. I'd say it's way less than half. But I don't think you need to be a basketball fan necessarily to appreciate what this young man is doing. And completely fair, to be fair, when I was at a New Year's Eve party, I had 5 people vote for him that probably have not watched a basketball game in 10 years. It doesn't take very long. He's really one of our own at this point. If you're Jamaican, he's one of you. If you're Canadian, he's one of you. If you're Torontonian, he's one of you. He's repping your city hard. I don't see a reason why you wouldn't vote for him. I watched Christine Sinclair's final game. I don't think I've watched female soccer in 9 years. This is an element of national alignment. This is bigger than that. I mean, Justin Trudeau once tweeted out in support of voting for DeMar DeRozan for the All-Star game. This is clearly like, if you're going to market yourself as Canada's team, you can't do this, is what I'm saying. So Raptors PR, step up. Will Lou, you guys on the Raptors show, you need to start galvanizing people. You need to start pushing people. I hope these early returns are a wake-up call. The bad news is he's not in the top 10 right now. The good news is there's still plenty of time. There's 14 days left to vote. And the final, starters will be decided by a media vote, 25%, and coaches vote, I believe, is another 25%, or executives vote. And fans are 50% vote. But at the end of the day, that decision will be announced on January 25th, which means up until January 19th, January 20th, I believe, you still have time to vote. Vote every day. Vote. Absolutely. We're not obsessed like you. That's cool. I mean, I run a basketball channel based on the Raptors. I would assume you're not obsessed like me. Let's talk about some other things. We need to talk about 2 things. So I was on a Raptors Twitter space last night until 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning. Shout out to Zazu. We were having a very extended debate about how good Pascal Siakam has been and whether Scottie Barnes has actually passed him, because certainly the analytics say he's a much better player. But are there not certain things that Scottie is still worse than Pascal? Certainly, I think, you can make Ghost has IQ saying, I agree, there's really no promotion. Yeah, absolutely, man. Like it just feels like they're just passively promoting it. Whereas I'm not seeing the same support as we saw for Fred VanVleet, which may be a tell for how the media really felt about Fred VanVleet versus how the media feels about Scottie Barnes. And I don't really care about how the media feels about Scottie Barnes, because the same media was telling me that he had work ethic issues and that he wasn't going to amount to shit 2 years ago, a year ago. And I don't really care. I make up my own decision. and make up my own mind about what this guy is about and what he deserves. And the numbers are telling me that he is one of the best players in the NBA. He deserves this, you know? So I was on the Twitter space last night. We were having this very lengthy debate. And really, I realized that there's really no way to prove it to people, right? Because I think when people look at his game, there's a multitude of factors that are probably suppressing the vote. Number one, he's not for your casual fan, right? He's not doing things like Shaden Sharp or even Jordan Clarkson, Jalen Green. They're guys who are probably a little bit more exciting on the highlight reel, right? Number two, probably doesn't help that the Raptors don't play national games. They don't play in front of ESPN. They weren't in the in-season tournament. They didn't even get through like the first round. Like they didn't even make it. So how many people have really watched him other than the people who watched the Wemby game, right? How many people have actually watched him? And even I'm kind of shocked that Victor Wembanyama is behind Alperen Şengün in votes, given all the hoopla and fanfare that there was for him. I'm actually quite surprised. And I think it's because the Spurs are so bad. The Raptors, after this trade, have been 2-0. And I think that can probably help Scottie maybe with the coaches eventually down the line. To just stick on point, this gap between Siakam and Barnes right now, I think a lot of people see it as if I just put the ball in this guy's hand and ask him to do something with it in tight quarters, which means dribble, shift, pull up, I trust Siakam more, and therefore Barnes is a worse player. And I think that as much as I think that this debate has been over for a while now, and I think it's quite ridiculous, I think what people don't realize is that there's so much to Scottie's game that maybe doesn't get caught in the box score, right? His defense, his versatility, his leadership, his rebounding, his transition play, his massively improved spacing ability. I mean, teams are running him off the line. He's doing a multitude of things out there. His playmaking and advantage generation in terms of being a screener and assister, he just sees the game so beautifully. And I think that the fact that the casual NBA fan does not appreciate him is a problem. You know, ultimately, it's a problem because they didn't really appreciate Nikola Jokic until he started slamming triple doubles every single night. You know, but I think that it shows and exposes a blind spot in terms of how we see the game or how we read the game that a casual fan cannot necessarily appreciate what Scottie Barnes does on a night-to-night basis because you kind of don't really feel him out there unless he goes on one of those heat check, 2-3 threes in a row, and now you're like, oh wow, or he has a crazy box score performance like 30 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. Then you're like, oh my god, this guy's arrived. But guys are doing that on the regular now. I mean, Jordan Clarkson, who plays for the hapless Utah Jazz and is certainly not an all-star. He had a triple-double the other day. So what was a triple-double when someone does it on every single night? I think the numbers don't really tell the full story with Scottie, but I think the more we as a fan base lean into advanced stats, I think that would give you a fuller perspective on him. Speaking of advanced stats, and I will definitely get to my last video, which was I shudder to think how many views it has right now. A part of me thinks it might have like 8,000 views. I released it a couple hours ago, and it was about OG Anunoby. And I will talk a little bit more about where that was coming from. First, I just want to take a quick moment to give a shout out to our sponsor. From our sponsor. The Penance Film Festival is happening February 22nd to 25th. It is a celebration of international films. It is a brilliant film festival in its 7th season. Prior to the COVID pandemic, it was the fastest growing film festival in the world. What is my affiliation with Penance? What are they paying me to say this? Well, I am Penance. I'm the festival director and founder of Penance. It is my baby. And if you love great films, if you have a film lover in your life, this is a worthwhile event for you, happening in downtown Toronto at the Carlton Cinema, February 22nd to 25th. Make sure to check us out. Link is in the description below for tickets and passes. Tickets will go on sale soon. Passes are already on sale. Let's get to that. Okay. All right. I hope that doesn't bother people. I put it 18 minutes in as opposed to like 4 minutes into it. But yes. Paradise Lost saying vote is tripled. Yes, vote is tripled tomorrow. So this thought process of like, what is he actually doing so well, and why do the casual fans not really register it? What's interesting is I've been hearing a lot more talk about analytics in Raptors space in general. I think this is amazing. I think there's a lot of people contributing to this. I think this community has had a part in it, though. I really do. And I think it's great because it's guiding the conversation in a way that I think is a little bit more accurate. So, speaking of analytics, one player who has been analytically a godsend for the Raptors, and I'm going to pull this up for you guys. Hang on one sec. Let me just pull this up. Share my screen, and it's really Emmanuel quickly, just to point that out. One sec. Okay, so share screen. Okay, so IQ with the Raptors has been muchos better. Like he's been a better player for the Raptors. So in terms of the counting stats, he's averaging 20 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 4 assists. Not anyone's definition of dominant, but he's shooting 53% from three, which is friggin' amazing. 42% from the field, not so amazing because he is shooting 33% from two. He's missing a lot of the floater range stuff. And I mean, he's someone who can do so much more than he's done so far. In terms of the advanced stats, man, he is already posting a 3.3 boxes minus. He is the only Raptor, other than Scottie Barnes, who is posting a positive defensive and offensive boxes minus. You will not believe that, but I will show you. Hang on one sec. So here we are. Sorry about all the scrolling. Okay, so here we go. Sorting by boxes minus, filter out the first two guys for limited minutes. But Scottie and IQ are the only guys who are positive in both regards with over 20 minutes played, right? Garrett Temple's played 9 minutes and Marquise Noah's played 4 minutes. Ignore that. In terms of value of replacement, I mean, he's been good. He's been really good. The win shares are solid. He's actually averaging more win shares per 48 than Scottie. You know, he's been a good defender. I think overall, like the point of attack defense has never been the biggest strength of Emmanuel Quickly, but he really, really has. Spooky Ghost Rider, can we call in to complain? What would you like to complain about, man? What is there to complain about? Sure, I can leave you a link to call in if you really want to call in. Hang on one sec. I'll find the link for you guys to call in. Here. Okay. Boom. I don't think you should do it. Whatever. I mean, okay. Let's go. So in terms of the advanced box score, I think this is really interesting. So hold on. Actually, this is worth noting. RJ Barrett has been really bad per the analytics. Like he's been pretty awful. How awful? Well, he's been a shade better than Grady Dick and a little bit worse than Gary Trent Jr. And I think most of it comes down to 25% usage and 22% turnover percentage. That is bad. The true shooting has been a bit of an improvement. I think, that's close to league average. 57% is really close to league average. He's been a really good rebounder for the Raptors. And in terms of his free throw rate, it's elite. Like it's the best on the team. So he's not doing everything poorly, but I think some of the stuff that he's doing poorly, it's wow. It's wow bad. Just take a look at his New York stats versus his Toronto stats. In terms of per 100 possessions, he's scoring less with the Raptors, and he's scoring technically more efficiently. He's 3% better from the field. He's nearly 10% better from three. I mean, he's getting to the line per 100 possessions more as a Raptor. So what gives? He's rebounding the ball twice as hard, right? He's gone from 7 to 12. I mean, almost twice as hard. So, I mean, he's doing better stuff. So why do the analytics not like him very much? He's simply not impacting winning enough is kind of the point. And if you're expecting guy to be, who's been negative boxes minus literally every year of his career to suddenly become positive, I think maybe you need to don't hold your breath. he's also been pretty much negative value replacement with every single year except for the first, 2 of the first 3 years. And then, the last couple of years have been negative. So I think that you can probably expect improvement over negative 5.8 boxes minus negative win shares. I hope that can improve. I think largely it'll come down to turnovers and decision making. But overall, I think you could be encouraged with the fact that he's getting to the line. He's shooting the ball a little bit better as a Raptor. And I think that both those things should be expected going forward because the Raptors just have slightly better spacing and a lot more transition play and opportunities for him. In terms of the game last night, I think some things will kind of surprise you. And I talked about it earlier on Twitter. If you're not following us on Twitter, Pensire B-Ball, definitely go check that out. We are very, very close to 1,000 subscribers or 1,000 followers on Twitter, which was really cool. Where are the advanced box score? Why can I never find this when I need to? Okay, here we go. So the advanced game log was very interesting for RJ Barrett. It's been negative for a while, but take a look at last night's. And I think the two things that are going to be really surprising. Number one, if you sort by boxes minus, your best players, Chris Boucher, Emmanuel Quickley, and Scottie Barnes, should surprise pretty much no one. Dennis Schroeder being fourth. The overwhelming, presence of negativity, despite being really good defensively, Jakob Poeltl posted a 2.0 defensive boxes minus. The offense was bad, obviously, because he takes a lot of shots close to the rim and he missed almost all of them. And he's not really creating a ton of passes. So net negative on offense, massive positive on defense, good value overall. Gary Trent Jr., negative across the board. Jonte Porter, whose game I really liked, which is kind of a good thing to say, like analytics are not everything, posts a team worst, negative 19.7. And I think what was most alarming to me was how we sorted usage. Scottie Barnes being the fifth on his own team in usage behind RJ Barrett, Dennis Schroeder, Emmanuel Quickley, and Pascal Siakam was a little bit surprising. And I think if you watch the game, like you could really feel it, right? Like he did not get the ball a hell of a lot. Yeah, I don't think you need to hate on him. I just think you really, really need to be realistic about what you're expecting and what his gaps and holes are. I think he's trying his best. And I think there's some potential there, but do not trick yourself into thinking that he at 19 points. Like I heard, I can't remember who said it. I think it was the Raptors show or Will Liu when he was doing his post-game breakdown, where he was talking about RJ Barrett. I'm pretty sure it was him. I hope I'm not mistaken, where he said like RJ was great, but Emmanuel Quickley was kind of like he suggested, or at least when I heard it after the first game against Cavs, the suggestion was that RJ had a better game than Emmanuel Quickley. And I have heard something similar from a few people saying RJ Barrett has been the more impressive player so far. And I just want to say that's just simply not true. And that's not about the 29 points or the turnovers. It's just overall impact defensively, offensively, both ways. You cannot compare these two players right now. They're not in the same wheelhouse. I think the best case scenario for RJ Barrett is, for him to turn around his career and become like a really capable fourth option. I think the best case for Emmanuel Quickley is, an all NBA guard. These are different outcomes. Anyways, the final thing I want to do before I bring on Ghostwriter, Spooky Ghostwriter, I apologize, is I want to just talk briefly about this video that I just released about OG Anunoby potentially coming back to the Toronto Raptors. Okay. I just want to say that I don't genuinely think that OG Anunoby is going to come back to the Raptors. If I had to bet money on it, I don't think I would bet that he would. I am, however, saying that he can. And it's a funny little thing because, last year the Raptors traded for Jakob Poeltl, and then, they finished their season out disastrously. Fred VanVleet leaves, and a lot of people started to wonder, is Jakob Poeltl going to go back to San Antonio? And that was a realistic offer for him. And the San Antonio Spurs allegedly, had some interest in him, and he was free to go back, at which point this would have looked like very bad for the Raptors. So I started digging around the internet, and I started wondering, why is no one talking about the potential of the Raptors bringing back OG Anunoby? He has fantastic relationships here. He has fantastic relationships with Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster. They've been very nice and very kind and very fair to him. They've been very transparent with him. And of course, I'm aware that there was this entire thing because of Bob McCowan last year where he stirred up this controversy that OG Anunoby wants out of Toronto. And there's been all this talk about OG Anunoby wants higher usage, bigger role. Well, guess what? He is currently in New York with a lot of ball dominant guards. Okay. Emmanuel Quickley was not a ball dominant guard. He was a guy who's pretty much operating at 24% usage. They have guys who really take a lot of shots and dribble the ball a lot. Jalen Brunson is one of them. Dante DiVincenzo can be another guy. And look, Julius Randle likes to dribble the ball too. And right now, OG is posting a 14.1% usage, right? 14.1% usage is lower than any year of his career outside of his rookie season. So if he went to New York to get a bigger role, I'm not suggesting that he's going to stay at 14.4. But if you think it's climbing to 24 or 23 or whatever the hell he wants, he was complaining about 20 here, right? So he had 20 to 19 here. So if you look at OG's usage, if he wants more usage, more touches, more points, etc., if that was the goal of all of this, then New York is not a fit. Why would he want to go there? Now, to those of you who say, well, two things. Number one, he just wants the big market exposure. Really? The guy who barely does interviews, the guy who never posts on social media, the guy who almost never draws any attention to himself, doesn't do any of the post-game stuff, barely does any single pod, that guy is just starving for the national media attention, right? Seems so out of character and so weird. Oh, but then we have Leon Rose's son. That makes a lot of sense, right? Until you realize how easy it is for a player to fire their agent. He doesn't have to stay in New York. This notion that he's guaranteed to stay there is crazy to me. He doesn't have to. Now, obviously, there's a lot of wink stuff behind the scenes, but if there's any person in the league who would troll, an entire franchise, an entire fan base, it's probably OG Anunoby. And this guy is his sense of humor is elite. And what would be funnier than OG Anunoby getting traded to the New York Knicks only to spurn the Knicks and come right back to the Raptors when they free up cap space for him? I think that would be hilarious. I also personally think it would be kind of hilarious if he has no intention of staying with the Knicks long term, because let me just point out one more thing. They are struggling to find usage for him with Julius Randle, but they are currently in talks of trying to exchange Julius Randle for a quote-unquote real superstar. So if that real superstar is Kevin Durant, if that real superstar is, Donovan Mitchell, that's even more shots out of the way. So this theory that he would just take all of Emmanuel Quickley's shots and all of RJ Barrett's shots, not really. And that's not really happening. And so I think, if I'm OG Anunoby, the obvious fit is Philly. Such an obvious fit with Nick Nurse and with Tyrese Maxey and with Joel Embiid. He could actually get shots. There's been proven guys who can average 20 points per game next to those two guys. The New York Knicks also have a pretty slow pace. I think that's worth noting. Another obvious fit is Indiana. You want real, you want to be in the limelight. You'd be the fastest paced offense. Your numbers would go through the roof. You'd be an all-star almost every single year. You'd get credit for anchoring a defense that has no defense. And if you could take, and he and Tyrese are such a seamless fit. Or the Raptors. He has all these relations with Scottie Barnes and the front office, and he wanted to be here. And everything I heard about OG was never that he was upset with Toronto. It was just that, he wanted more usage and he wanted the bag. Well, Toronto can give him the bag. And honestly, Toronto can give him more usage because right now Pascal Siakam's right at 25. And if you can rein in RJ Barrett to be a little bit more, 20-ish, I think you can find 23% usage for OG Anunoby. He could just become one of the guys. Emmanuel Quickley and Scottie Barnes are very unselfish. That's not something I can really say about Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle or Donovan Mitchell. So I did this with Kyle Lowry. Who are we talking about? I didn't have this channel when Kyle Lowry was not on the Raptors, so I don't know exactly what you're talking about. And I was very ready to move on from Kyle. What's whose usage? OG's? It's 14.1%. It's really bad. Okay, let's bring on Spooky Ghost Rider. Spooky Ghost Rider, what's going on, man?
Not much, I suppose. Sorry. Okay. So I do have how should I say this? Do I sound okay?
Yeah, you sound fine. You said you wanted to call in.
Right. So I have, I suppose, long-term concerns about sort of the fan base accepting just accepting Scotty as the future. I've personally agreed that to that statement that Scottie Barnes is the future, but I am sort of I have long-term concerns over sort of how the how MLSE is marketing the team sort of towards the nostalgia bait that is, for example, Pascal Siakam.
I think they've
And
done a pretty good
when
job of shifting focus and kind of putting Scotty forefront center of everything. I don't know what more they can do other than just push people to vote.
because I've seen, for example, just a great deal of just people, for lack of a better word, digging into their just previous positions.
Okay.
Because I was watching, for example, Ben Rogers' channel today, and he his argument for Siakam has not changed over the entirety of the whole season.
What is his
And
argument? I don't listen. I don't watch Raptors Digest. What is his argument?
just extend Pascal. Just extend Pascal. He's been saying it all year long, and
Okay.
it doesn't seem like any amount of change, negative, positive, whatsoever,
Well, I
has
mean,
changed
in
his
his
mind.
defense, Pascal has played much better over the last 40 games. I mean, sorry, 40 days than he did the first, 20 days. Hasn't he?
Mhm.
He's been much better. So, I mean, and he's also fit in. And I mean, apart from the defense, I mean, offensively, I really have no problems with Pascal Siakam being here. I think it's just age. That's it. That's my entire argument. Age and defense. That's it. I want a defense. I want a better defender. Probably want a better shooter, and I want a younger player. That's it. In terms of like the worst case scenario here would be kicking the can down the road and going into unrestricted free agency and expecting that you'll be able to woo him at that point. You won't. I think that is gone.
Mhm.
Signing him to a max contract is probably the lesser of two evils, is it not?
It is, but I'm of the opinion that, frankly, the deal's probably been on the table this whole time. And I suspected, like, right at the start of the season, like, I would have been okay with a max contract. But at the same time, if I was Siakam, there would be, I didn't see any point in taking a max contract when if I was able to play my way into an all NBA third team, I would be able to get a supermax level contract. And even 1%, 2% over the salary cap is a what, $10 million like bonus over 5 years. And as athletes, you only get so many years to make your money. And if I was Siakam, I wouldn't have taken the deal.
No, I understand that, but he's allegedly been willing to take this max contract pretty much the entire way through. The Raptors just haven't offered it to him. That's what I've heard, and that's what the reporting has been, unless you've heard something different. So this max contracts, the supermax stuff was last year. The supermax, they offered him an extension last year. They offered Fred an extension last year. They both chose to kind of bet on themselves. Um, Fred for different reasons because he wasn't thrilled about the 104 over 4 years. And I mean, in hindsight, he was right. He made a lot more than that.
Mhm.
And Pascal, because he wanted to, wait out for the Supermax. Now, obviously, Pascal Siakam gunned for the Supermax, didn't make All NBA last year, probably wasn't close. And ultimately, this year came in thinking, okay, let me get the max. And, the Raptors pull the rug sort of and just say, actually, we're not so sure about that. At least that's the read on it. That seems, because certainly this is not a player who is on track to make All NBA this year. So the super max stuff is out the door. At this point, offering him a max contract right now simply provides him an assurance that provided, what if he gets injured or something like that, at the very least, that contract is done. There's a lot of incentives for him to sign right now. But there's not a ton of incentives for the Raptors to sign him because there's a moratorium or a period after which you sign a player that you cannot trade them. I believe it's 6 months. So at this point, you wouldn't be able to trade him at the draft, which would handicap you in that sense. And if his play falls off any which way, I think you would be staring down the barrel of a negative asset, just the same way the Knicks, the Bulls are with Zach LaVine. So I think that's the kind of complicated long and short of it. Yeah. Anyways, Spooky Ghost Rider, do you have any other thoughts?
Not particularly. I just came to complain, but thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, man. Cheers. Have a good one. Okay, Maroon Prince, man, what's going on?
Hey, not bad. How you doing?
Not too bad. What are your thoughts on this, man?
The Pascal idea?
Well, yeah. What would you do?
Yeah, with Pascal, honestly, I think I commented on was it yesterday's live this morning with my coffee. I think honestly we should just look to salvage one blue chip, or maybe not even a 5-star but a 4-star, 3-star talent out of this deal, and cut our losses and move on. I personally think, especially with the Quickly deal, we're ushering in a new era finally officially. And obviously Pascal is the best scorer on the team still. I hate to say this because I'm not an overall fan of his personality, but the dude does know how to generate offense. Not extremely efficient offense, not 3-level. However, the few things that he does it extremely well. He's extremely good going downhill, getting to the line, creating contact, so on and so forth, but he's a shitty player in the postseason. He's not reliable in the clutch. He's not even the most reliable clutch player on our team right now. He probably bumps to third behind Quickly and Scottie at this point. And I'm not comfortable paying this guy a max. And at the end of the day, we have a little bit of role certainty on the roster, and we know definitively what we need. So let's headhunt and find a few specific pieces, plug a few holes, and not try to, win a championship in this deal.
Yeah, I see you. I see what you're saying. There's a number of different ways you can go, and I happen to think that the way you went with OG can change your thinking on the way you can go with Pascal, because you obviously got something of extreme value for OG, which was Emmanuel Quickly. And naturally, with the OG thing, had you gone another direction with that trade, you would have gone the opposite direction with this one. Had you been very pick heavy with that one, you could go, more for your Emmanuel Quickly with Pascal Siakam, right? Whether that be whatever your equivalent of Emmanuel Quickly is on these other teams, like Onyeka Okongwu, Benedict Mathurin. The young player on their rookie deal is what I'm alluding to. So I think there's different ways that you can go with Pascal. Number one is the role player route, where you get, your Rudy Gay trade basically in a nutshell, and maybe you get a pick or two out of it in exchange for it. So role players on secure long-term-ish deals, not long-term, but movable contracts attached to reasonable players. This is your, in a nutshell, Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter plus picks package, right? That's one way I think you can go with it. I think you can go the other way also, where you go straight salary dump, where you take another team's expiring or combination of expirings, and then just get a boatload of picks and maybe one young asset for it, right? Not really sure which team can facilitate that trade. It might have to be a third team involved, but I think that's another way to go with this. And you might just get a surprise pop from some of those role players, again, in contract years, no real incentive to bring them back. And then that way you go into this summer with a lot of flexibility. Not that flexibility is necessarily the greatest thing, but I wonder if there is a possibility of bringing someone like OG back, right? The
Yeah,
third way you can go is the young player package, right? And I think that could be appealing as well. So then you get not only Scotty but IQ, but then you get the third guy in that deal. And I mean, obviously, like you can hold out hope that Grady will become that, and Koloko can become that, and RJ could rehab his career a little bit and become that here. But getting like a bona fide, young building block, like again, Onyeka Okongwu, someone like that, where you can definitively pencil that guy in and say, that's my starter for the next 5 years, come hell or high water. Which of those ways would you go with him?
the latter, because we know a timeline now, at least, is what I guess I'm saying, essentially.
So you prioritize young players who are ready to sort of contribute right now, as opposed to picks down the line that could be parlayed into something.
Yes, and I would only say that because of the type of talent that Scottie Barnes is. He's somebody that is capable of contributing to meaningful, playoff runs right now.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we don't really need to punt a few of these years to just develop for the sake of developing. We can actually get these guys in positions to start winning. They're probably not going to like blow us away right now because I do think this team has significant holes.
Mm-hmm.
But the end of the day, like I don't want Scottie Barnes to start winning 2 years from now. I kind of want him to get the ball rolling, with playing some meaningful basketball, especially because we put him through quite a bit, and I'm sensitive to the possibility that he's going to be a star on the significant rise in the next coming years, and we can't take it for granted that we have one of these guys. I'm actually shocked that Masai's been so willing to roll the dice, and wait these couple of years to see how things shook out, post Kyle departure, post Serge and Mark departure. I don't think it's been wise, but here we are with some reasonable young talent. So let's just like see where things go. But if we're assuming that Pirtle is our center for the foreseeable future, being the next 2, 3 years, because we can't get off that contract too easily, then I think we look to, and obviously Koloko's here, so I think his archetype is really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's reason to like let that play out and see where it goes. But I think if that's one of our priors, then what we're dealing with is a situation where we need like a, I guess OG Anunoby, like a 3-and-D combo forward
Mm-hmm.
that is a good locker room guy and isn't afraid to mix it up in terms of physicality.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wonder if
Tough.
the right way to go is actually a mixture of all three things that I mentioned. So your young player plus your current role player, who can help you win, right? Really adds to winning, plus assets. I think the assets, when I look at the Raptors losing out on their 2025 draft pick or 2024 draft pick, and having pretty much just their own picks with some 20 second rounders missing, I think of this as one of the more depleted teams in terms of draft assets in the league, right? They're not bad.
Totally.
Like they're not a team that's traded away their next 5 picks and with pick swaps, et cetera, and all those restrictions. So once this deal is gone, right? If let's just say, for instance, once this pick is conveyed to the Spurs, which in all likelihood we will definitely convey it now that we're winning, and you convey it, now you're clear. You're clear. Now, if in fact you do end up getting a pick heavy package, you're actually in a good position draft wise, because there's so many teams out there that don't have any draft picks, right? So when the next player does become available, wouldn't you like to be the team with an abundance of draft capital where you could reasonably, I don't know, package, I don't know, an RJ Barrett and like 4 draft picks. If you rehab his value like to at least like neutral level, where his decision making gets better, his shooting becomes a little bit better, he becomes like a 40% corner 3-point shooter or something like that, and a capable defender, that
Yeah.
player plus 3-4 picks might be exactly what gets you a star. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Totally.
I think like draft assets are somewhat overvalued by fans, somewhat undervalued by general managers. I think that might be fair to say. So yeah. Anyways,
But what is the talent? But what is the like? Could you? Because for me, I like Nas Reed personally in terms of a guy on the
sure.
timeline. But like for you, who's the actual target if you were to headhunt a person? Like somebody's going to become available a year from now, sure, but who exactly do you think is a good fit? Like who's the
Draymond Green.
example?
Draymond Green.
Okay, I personally think he's like, I see it because I know the archetype and it fits perfectly. However, I just the money attached to him at his age, with him being like sort of a temperamental individual. I don't. It's not like a. Is there like a sub 30 talent
Version
in
of
the league
Draymond
that,
Green?
or just any talent
Onyeka
you think
Okongwu,
fits
maybe. Onyeka, maybe. Yeah.
him specifically, right? So
Yeah, him
then,
specifically.
what's your aversion to using the Pascal trade opportunity to headhunt him specifically now, instead of waiting for him to become available on a larger deal and throw picks into the mix to get him?
Well, he's on a very reasonable extension. Speaking, I'm assuming you're speaking about Onyeka Okongwu, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's on
He's
a very
actually on the
reasonable.
similar deal to Naz Reid. So
Yeah, I mean, he and Denny Odia to me strike me as players out there who are.
I love Denny.
Yeah, I like them both, and I think they're both players who are slightly undervalued because they don't produce big box score numbers, and they're on both very reasonable extensions. Yeah, and they're both also on teams that are struggling. I think that's also valuable, right? Naz Reid is on a team like Minnesota, which is thriving. So is Jaden McDaniels. Like, I would love to get Jaden McDaniels. I would love to get Herb Jones. I would love to get, Trey Murphy the third. I'd like all these players. It's just the problem is their teams are not struggling enough for them to necessarily be desperate to make a move. Whereas when you hear the reporting on Atlanta, it's like Landry Fields is open for business. He's willing to make. He is committed to making changes for this roster. And so, yeah, I mean, I look at guys like DeJounte Murray. I look at guys like Onyeka Okongwu, and I'm like, what if, even Jalen Johnson? Not that they would necessarily move
Fair.
off of him because he's a very young asset who's like, in his third year, same draft class as Scottie, who's really popping off for them. And maybe he's the future there if they decide to go in another direction. So, yeah. Anyways, man, any closing thoughts?
No, not really. I guess my closing thought would be that when we do these, because we're probably going to be talking Pascal trades just as a community for until
The
the
next
deadline.
month.
So
Exactly.
yeah, so it's like my thing with these trades is like have an ideal person in mind and consider whether or not it makes sense to just target that person now and just lean in, overpay if we need to. It's more
Right.
about like where we are and what we want to get to than trying to 100% win these deals.
I agree with you. I think there's a multitude of different ways the Raptors could go. I know that a lot of people think that, they're not going to be able to have options. I think they have a ton of options, and I'm excited to see what they do. I think standing pat is one of those options. It's just my least favorite option of the bunch because I think that it's a little bit passive. And I think Pascal has a lot of value out there. I think for a team that, even though he's kind of like, hey, like, I'm not going to extend with anybody right now for this 2-year deal that's available, I still think like there's an advantage to bringing him into your program, having his bird rights, having that, 4-month head start to not only see him in your system, but also to have that chance to recruit him and maybe even just kind of see how he fits, in Indiana or Atlanta or whatever. So I don't know. I think his camp is pushing towards unrestricted free agency. There isn't a great deal of incentive right now for him to agree to a trade because honestly, if he cares about winning, why would he want to deplete the team that he's going to? Why would he want to deplete their asset space? It makes sense. They're in a precarious situation for sure. Someone saying Cam Thomas, Claxton, and draft capital. Dream on, man. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. Anyways, man, thanks a lot for calling in. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Okay. I usually am pretty good about timing out washroom breaks away from lives, but somehow I drank like a liter of water before this. I need to take a leak. So here's the thing. This is a perfect opportunity. It's 12:07, Friday, January 5th. Votes count for 3. So here's what we're going to do. Hang on one sec. I'm going to put the screen up and I'm going to beg you guys as a community to go and vote. Okay. As much as you may think it's not going to make a difference, it's absolutely going to make a difference. And we can do this. And especially now that, him not making top 10 is really concerning people. And it was pretty much news all over Raptors Twitter today. How could we do this? How could we allow this to happen? So let's put our money where our mouth is. Vote.nba.com. And I will be back in 1 minute. And we're going to hear from Lane, Death 4K, and Sean on one call. Okay. So give me 1 minute and I'll be back. Hang on, let me see if I can put music on. Yeah, I can put music on. Great. This is you're now on hold. This song sucks. What am I doing here? There. Okay, 1 minute. Be back. Okay, did you vote? I hope you voted. It's vote.nba.com. It's not that hard. Okay, let's bring on Lane, Death 4K, and Sean. Sean, your mic is off. Please don't be a troll.
No, not at all. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. I'm doing good. I have a twofold question. I actually was thinking about this all day, so it's a blessing to have you on live
Awesome.
right now. Can we afford to resign if we do go with Pascal? Can we afford under the new CBA rules to keep him and Scottie? And would we want to even do that
Yes. We can afford to keep them both. Yes, we can.
without going over the luxury tax?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yep.
Now, a question for you and the community. Would we want to do that, or would it look bad on Masai for doing that?
Well, Scottie's not eligible for a max until this summer, which won't kick in until the following year. So you'll have 1 year of Pascal and his new deal before Scottie's deal kicks in 25, 26. So you'll have that 1 year buffer to kind of see how it works out. And, naturally, if it doesn't work out very well, then you're kind of handicapped because that's big money, right?
Yeah.
Pascal's next deal is, I think, $45 million if you max him out. And Scottie's next deal is 42, unless he makes all NBA before that, in which case he might be eligible for the Tyrese Halliburton deal of 260 over 5, which is significantly more. Then beyond that, you'll have Emmanuel Quickly to resign. He's on the books for a lot of money. If he continues to shine, he could be up for 30 million. Now you're starting to get close. Then you have Jakob Poeltl and Dennis Schroeder. They're short-term, Dennis is a short-term deal, 12.5. You can get off of him pretty easily. Jakob is not so short, 19.5. Now you're starting to get really, really up against not the luxury tax, but you're capped. You're capped out. So now you have very limited wiggle room. You can't really go out and sign free agents other than your mid-level exception. You'll have to renounce Gary Trent Jr. naturally, unless you're bringing him back on a really cheap deal. Thaddeus Young, again, renounced. Otto Porter, renounced. Chris Boucher, expiring. By the time Scottie's deal kicks in, Chris will be gone. We can definitely look at the cap more closely after this call. But yeah. Anyways, does that answer your question?
It does. It does.
Okay.
Definitely.
Perfect.
And also, though, if we do keep him and we decide to trade him, is it going to be a Levine situation where a lot of teams would not take him because of how much we would pay him with the max?
I'm curious what Lane thinks about that. Lane, you got an answer for that, man?
Yeah, I don't honestly think so unless he goes through some catastrophic injuries in the next year or two. right? What's really driven down Levine's value is that he's a BMW. You know, he's pretty, he looks nice, but he's always freaking broken, and he's expensive as hell. Um, I don't think Siakam's unless I and God forbid you never want to see anyone get hurt, but unless he starts to go through an injury bug, because he's always been an Iron Man, except for what was it, 2 years ago?
Shoulder injury and groin
Yeah,
injury.
correct. Those two freak injuries, but it's not. He's never had that nagging injury that's kept him out 5 games here, 5 games there, kind of thing. It's always been some freak injuries. But unless that starts to come up, then yeah, you can get into that situation. But
Can we also factor in that A, Zach LaVine is younger than Pascal, and B, Zach LaVine is a bigger box office type of guy for a small market team. Like, if Zach LaVine was healthy, I mean, granted, Pascal has the cachet of, you know, 2-time All-NBA, 2-time All-Star, NBA champion, etc. He was the second best player. He drew a lot of, praise for that. He also lost a lot of goodwill for the meltdown of the bubble, right? I think everyone watched that bubble. There was literally nothing else going on in the NBA world at the time. Everyone tuned in and watched him get clamped. So I think that big playoff failures, a reputation as not the guy, not the alpha scorer. Zach LaVine, you know, if he was injury prone, but he was like a Donovan Mitchell level impact guy, there would still be massive trade interest for him. Massive, right? Because there's massive interest right now for Kevin Durant, and he's 5 years older than, you know, Pascal Siakam, and he would probably still net you a boatload of draft picks because he's that level of talent. I think the issue with guys like Bradley Beal, you know, Bradley Beal went for nothing, right? He went for very little. He went for, I think, Jordan Poole, right? So I think the issue with guys like that is other teams don't really think that they're worth the money for what they're providing. It's not only the injuries. I think with LaVine, the injuries compound the situation. But if he was a healthy guy, maybe he's worth 35, but still not worth 44. So that was an upside deal, and I think they struck out on it, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, injuries for sure didn't help though. I mean, what's he missed, like 80 games in the last 3 seasons or something like that?
Sure.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know.
He hasn't been very healthy, but Fred VanVleet wasn't super healthy either.
No, and that's
and he signed a $43 million deal with Houston.
Yep.
So, I mean, like, again, like it's an age factor too. Like Pascal will be 30 when he signs his next deal. LaVine is 28 right now. He's in the middle of his deal.
I don't know if 30 is necessarily a death sentence for Siakam though. Like, I think he's peaked in terms of what he can get better at. Like, sure, maybe there will be another season down the line where maybe he shoots like 35, 36% from 3, you know, just
it might be this season.
It might, you never know. But I think he's kind of peaked in terms of like how much better he's going to get offensively and defensively. The thing with him is I don't think he's going to regress that much when he hits 30, 31, 32, 33.
It's already regressing.
Attention span wise, lack of interest. Yeah, but I think you put him in the right situation, that all that stuff's all going to come back. I mean, you do blame the guy, but I mean, he's heard his name constantly in trade talks over the last 2 years. And I'm not saying that's an excuse to check out, because it's not. But I mean, as a human being on a human level, like if someone's always like talking,
when you say it's not an excuse, and then you say, but it is an excuse. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so I'll prove it. Like, this is not a Pascal Siakam hate channel right now, but like I get accused of that a lot, so I'm gonna tread carefully. But at the same time, I'm not gonna not share this because it's worth sharing. Here, hang on one sec. Look at this. Okay, so in terms of the numbers, Boxus Minus is 1.2. That is the lowest in 3 years. That's a regression. If I sort for his, let me just highlight this season and then just see where he's at. In terms of PER, this is his 4th best season. True shooting percentage, this is his 2nd best season in terms of true shooting percentage, because he is getting a ton of assisted baskets, which means he's less on the ball, and he's doing a lot less of what he was doing last year, which is like dribble, ISO, creation, etc. stuff, and a lot more like cutting without the basketball, catch and shoot stuff, which is great because the creation load of this team has gone away from him. Last night he had 0 assists, and it's gone more towards Dennis and Scottie, and I guess now Emmanuel Quickly. In terms of rebound percentage, which is really, I mean, you've listened to coaches and Jack Armstrong say rebounding is effort. This is his worst season of his life as a rebounder. Certainly not what you would expect. I understand, like, guys regress a little bit at age 29. However, he is 243 pounds. He is 6'9", and he plays low in the defense a lot. Okay. In terms of defensive win shares, technically the lowest season so far, defensive boxes minus, worst season so far. Okay. There's clear signs of regression not gonna come. I'm talking regression happening right now. Okay. In terms of points per 100 possessions, this is his second best season. Turnovers, fourth best season. Blocks, worst season. Steals, worst season. Assists, third best season. Where are you seeing anything that suggests, free throw percentage, this is his fifth best season. Free throw attempts per 100, second best season. Free throws, 2-point percentage, third best season. He's not having a career high in anything at all. There's literally nothing where you can say this is a career year for Siakam in this. This one thing is getting better. With DeMar DeRozan at the age of 29, if I compare him to DeRozan, there was a lot of things that were getting better. Like the same. Let me compare it. The same year. Hold on, let me pull it up. So 29-year-old DeMar DeRozan. Where was he? Yeah, there we go. 29 DeMar. Right? No, it's perfect. Here we go. Sorry, DeMar at 31 posted a career high boxes minus.
Was that his first year on the Bulls or last year on the Spurs?
Last year on the Spurs.
Okay.
He was middle of the pack value per replacement, tops in win shares per 48. Middle of the pack block percentage. So again, like at 31, he was middle of the pack block percentage, kind of showing you that, yeah, like you don't always have to be like worse. Bulldog saying, "Are you kidding me with this music, Rob?" That's funny. Sorry, I just saw that comment. Bulldog's hilarious, man. I remember him calling in once, and I just laughed. Really great caller. Okay.
So is it safe to say then, if we cannot get a trade deal done, is he worth the max to sign him?
Oh, as opposed to what? Letting him go for nothing?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that would be the worst possible outcome in the world. Like you would be, you really would be, you would be struggling hard to replace that value, I think.
So if they don't, hopefully they can. I'm under the camp that I appreciate his time being here, but it's time to move on. That's just me, but I definitely don't want to lose him for nothing. But I don't think he does, as you just shared it right now, and I'm not a Siakam hater. I just think that he doesn't deserve the max, but he gets his payday, but just not the max.
Right. Death 4K, you haven't said anything. You called in. Your mic is off right now. You got anything to add to this, man?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to jump in on anyone.
No worries.
First of all, I wanted to start off by saying Happy New Year. Congrats on 7K.
Thank you so much. Yes, we just passed 7,060. I was like, whoa, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I really was enjoying the part you're talking about how, well, for starters, I haven't been watching Raptors basketball for a bit. I think I tuned in last year.
You're not alone.
Front. When they didn't do anything in the trade deadline and they just signed Pirtle, I've been keeping up with the team, watching the box scores. I really started zoning in, though, when they did the trade this year.
So
I was really
5
excited.
days ago.
Yeah,
okay.
5 days ago. And I've been keeping track with Siakam this last year or so. And I think with the media and going into the whole, like, Siakam's still our guy thing, I think the Siakam camp is setting some smoke screens right now. That's kind of confusing the media in terms of just when he gets traded, he's not going to sign with that team, right? And I think the media is looking at that as,
he wants to be here.
He wants to stay. Yeah, he wants to stay, and that's what's going on. And
he doesn't want to.
That's why we're not getting our offers. I just think I want to clarify and get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to stay. I think he wants to hit free agency and repeat what Fred VanVleet did, and leverage the max offer. And he's never had a chance to do that. In fairness, he's never had a chance to do that. Now, I've heard a lot of athletes say that they never had a chance to do that and they regretted it. That they never had that chance to kind of meet with all the teams, get their pitch, get intel. Like, why do the Raptors interview like 10, 12, 15 different coaches? You get intel. You understand, pigeonholing yourself into, yeah, I'm going to go to Indiana and I'm going to sign an extension because that's where I want to be for the rest of my life. Why? What advantage does that present for him? Right? Exactly. So I think the only advantage that I can think of right now is that 5th year that the team with the bird rights could potentially present him. And if his career is going to go the way I think it's going to go, that 5th year is very significant. Is it not? I mean, what is his likelihood that at the age of 34, he's going to be able to recoup that money on the 5th year that he'd be letting go right now by not signing?
Very minimal.
Right. So that's my point. At 34, he could be a minimum guy. He could be a mid-level exception guy at that point. You're leaving like, potentially $60 million on the table or $50 million on the table on that 5th year, provided the raises are, 10% or whatever it is. So I think that that's a significant leverage piece that any team that, trades for him has, that we can offer you the 5th year. I'm just not sure there's any team jumping over themselves to want to offer him the 5th year, because nobody wants this guy at 35. I mean, it's bad enough to think that you'll be holding on for a slight decline in 31, 32, 33. How many guys have held their value past the age of 32? Forget 35. I'm saying 32. How many players in this league, you can count them on one hand?
Yeah, I do think, though, you're going to start seeing a lot more just because of modern technology in medicine. But I do agree with you. I mean,
athletes have peaked 24 to 28 across all sports almost consistently forever. The fact that we're even seeing athletes touching 30 right now and not falling off is already the miracle of modern science and recovery and rest and all the stuff the trainers are doing to extend an athlete's career, therefore shelf life, therefore earning potential, right? A guy like Thaddeus Young at the age of 35 is still in the NBA and still a somewhat competent-ish, player. I mean, I don't know if that's even true, but he's okay. Like,
yeah,
he's not.
There.
He's on the cliff. He's falling off of it right now. So what I'm saying is the same guy, maybe 15 years ago, is out of the league at 32. That's the window. But that's not to say that if you're signing a guy to a max contract, there's something attached to that. There's like an expectation of value that he's going to be a starter for you. You're not trying to get Kyle Lowry. No offense to Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry, phenomenal guy. But last year he got $30 million a year to come off the bench for a guy who was making, like, what was Gabe Vincent making last year? Like $2 million?
Yeah, something like that.
So that's my point. Like, you don't want to be in that situation. And especially if you're not a contender and you're not going to extract massive value on the front end of that deal and then basically use it as an expiring contract later down the line as a dump, I'm open to the idea that he can age gracefully. Yeah. I'm just not open to this idea that he's going to get any much better than he is right now.
I 100% agree with that. I 100% agree.
Okay, so right now, what's he worth? Yeah. I don't think he's worth 30. I don't think he's worth 30 million right now. For what he's doing right now, I don't think he's worth 30 million. I think he's worth like 30-ish.
So here, I have a friend who's a Bucks fan, and this is what he told me. He said, because he ever since the 2019 playoffs, I mean, he's followed the Raptors, obviously. And he said, I want to see how Siakam looks without Anunoby on the team. I want to get a good 10, 15 game sample size without Anunoby versus the first 15 games of the season with Anunoby, and see if because I mean, really, they were playing the same position a lot of the time, and just going through film and looking like, look, this is where Siakam's supposed to be. Anunoby was here. This is Siakam's supposed to be doing this. Anunoby's supposed to be doing this. What he was trying to say as a Bucks fan is he thinks that was Siakam's struggles at the beginning of the season. And if you look at the advanced analytics, yes, they're on the climb. He probably just figured it out more or less. But I mean, the past 3 games without Anunoby has looked a lot better, to say the least. Like, the eye test says it looks a lot better. So I'm interested to see 10, 15 game sample size, analytics. What do they say? Kind of a larger sample size. Does it say that?
Okay, how does RJ help Pascal in any way more than OG? I think he's even more redundant. He has all the same strengths and weaknesses, except he's way worse.
Yeah. I mean,
RJ is like a shorter, way worse Pascal Siakam.
yeah,
he can't
they're
play off
arguing
ball.
with the ball handling.
Huh?
The ball handling can make it a little bit easier.
You mean like the fact that RJ can dribble?
Competently, yes.
Yeah, but RJ sucks up way more usage. Number one, like he's consistently been like a 25-26% usage guy, which is why I say he's like a very worse version of Siakam. Like he takes a lot of the same shots. I mean, people don't see it because they're so physically different. They look so different. You know what I mean? But if RJ was taller, like people would be like, oh, a guy who struggles to shoot from three, sometimes struggles with decision making, is a so-so defender, can get to the line and can really dribble and create his own. I'm basically describing Pascal Siakam. So in a lot of ways, maybe what you're doing here is you are replacing Pascal Siakam with RJ Barrett in the hopes that you can develop RJ to be Pascal light. And then eventually, maybe you need to change Pascal for what is ultimately an upgrade on OG, like a young version of OG. So if effectively you were to, I don't know, trade Pascal right now for a package around Onyeka Okongwu, if you were to get that, you would effectively be, you'd still have Pascal and OG on your team. It's just they would now be called RJ and Onyeka, and they'd be younger. And hopefully you could develop Onyeka into something closer to what OG did for you, and RJ into something closer to what Pascal did for you. I mean, people call that insane. Obviously, I'm not suggesting that RJ is anywhere close to the player that Pascal is. Pascal is way, way better. If RJ becomes anything close to Pascal, we would be very overjoyed as fans, because he's also 23 years old. He's like a year older than Pascal when Pascal was like, I mean, RJ's entire career is basically played out when Pascal was still in college.
Yep.
So who's to say what he can or cannot be under Darko, right?
I'm actually so excited for him just for that reason. So I keep saying my friend, but you know, the guy I've been talking to, my friend who's a Knicks fan, is just like telling me about, oh, RJ's tunnel vision this, tunnel vision that. It's like, dude, you guys have Precious Achiuwa now. He's like, think of it this way, like,
yeah, but they're not paying Precious Achiuwa $27 million a year. That's the difference.
But like, we've been putting up with it, so now that we have a guy, like we know, like when we see it, you know what I mean? And now we have a guy who can actually hit those shots most of the time, or make something out of nothing. He's not just running in and throwing it off the backboard like Precious would.
Would you be shocked if I told you analytically this year that Precious Achiuwa has been a considerably better player than RJ Barrett?
Honest opinion, yes.
Okay, he's been better. So as much as, yes, he has been considerably better. Defensively, especially, he's been much better. Rebounder, he's better. Yeah. So yeah, and I mean he's a lower usage guy. Precious Achiuwa doesn't suck up 25% usage, 27% usage.
He wishes he could.
I'm sure he does. But that's what I'm saying. Like RJ has a long way to go. I don't want like, here's the thing. I want I can't control what people think, of course, but I want there to be a balance between he's 23 years old and he can get a lot better, and hopefully, you know, he's open to doing that, versus the player that you see on the basketball court, regardless of 19 points and 8 rebounds, there's a lot of bad things he's doing on the basketball court that hurt you on a night-to-night basis, from his decision making to his defense to a lot of stuff that he does, from his negative spacing. There's a lot of stuff that he does. There's also a lot of good things that he does. And you need to balance all sides of the equation to get to a realistic perspective. The same thing with Grady. Grady right now is horseshit as a basketball player, right? But that's not to say that, you know, he won't become something really good. This is a very nuanced opinion. I think we're very used to the black and white. He's a bust. He's great. You know, he's toxic, or there's a considerable amount of nuance and gray area between, you know, what a guy can be versus what he is and what reasonable path he has to get there, I think.
Yeah, so, for sure. And
so it's the same thing. I can say like, I think Pascal is slightly overpaid and will become overpaid, and still acknowledge that he's a top 50 player and probably figures to be next year as well. But after that, all bets are off. I don't know if he's going to be a top 50 player after 2026. And if you're a Raptors fan, that should scare you, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll leave kind of the top 35 conversation after 32. That's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's still in it right now. I probably
You still think he's a top 35 player?
Oh yeah, this year for sure. This
Okay.
year, especially
think so.
the recent. If you, I think, I hate to say it, but it's the same argument that I used for Scottie last year. Whereas if you take away, this is gonna sound so bad, but if you take away the really bad games, so in Pascal's case, the first 7 games of the season, and you take those games away and you just do the last like 26 27 games, his numbers look so much different, like so much different. And sure, maybe it's only a point per game or two, but just the field goal percentage, the turnover, I mean, he was turning the ball over 5 or 6 times the first 3 to 4 games of the year. It
Mhm.
looked so much different.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's not me sitting here making excuses for the guy. Obviously, you're paid to do what you got to do. But my whole argument on the hustle side is, I mean, I think on a personal level, it's like if you were working somewhere, right, and all you hear is we're gonna cut your department, we're gonna cut your department, we're gonna cut your department, like your work ethic is gonna go through the fucking floor. And I could almost say, like, okay, I get it. This dude's, I mean, he's making millions of dollars and he's in a spot that people dream of, right? But there's still the
Mhm.
human side of it where he hears it from the media. He's probably had sit downs with coaches, sit downs with front office. Like he knows, you know what I mean? His camp's talking about it. Like he knows something's gonna happen big in the next month or two. I'm sure it's getting in his head. I mean, you see it in the interviews. He went from a happy guy, always laughing, doing interviews, to now it's like, yeah, I don't
When
know.
was he a happy guy, always laughing?
The 2-3 years ago, he wasn't always happy in interviews,
No.
joking with the press.
No, I mean, obviously, what happened with the bubble is going to, significantly change how you approach, your media relations and fan relations. I don't doubt that, you know. Um,
But do you get
and
my point on how like you could see maybe where the hustle side has taken a hit because he has no clue where the hell he's going to be in it. And like I said, it's not an excuse, but it's just human nature. I'm not
Sure. I
saying
mean,
that.
if you excuse the first 7 games, he's averaging 24 points,
Mhm,
6.7 rebounds,
mhm.
4.9 assists, 1 steal, 0.2 blocks, 2.3 turnovers on 54% from the field and 27% from three with a negative defensive profile. I would say that's nowhere close to a max player. And I just filtered out the games that you wanted me to.
And I agree.
So that's my point. It's like you can't say that he's a like, and I'm very, very curious to see like where he ranks in terms of value replacement, because I'm curious to see which of these players you would actually put over him. So I'm going to just let's see if the claim is true. Hang on.
Yeah, quick question, if I can ask.
Sure. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
this is Sean's son, but my father and I, we like to like sort of go over like different scenarios and whatnot. So I think we come to agreement that Siakam most likely will be traded, right?
Mhm.
Um, kind of curious, what do you feel about a trade with Siakam going to Miami? And a package, for example, would look like Siakam and Gary Trent, or Tyler Hero and Kevin Love, for example. Because we need the spacing
Oof.
on the floor, we need a shooter, right? And that's what we're looking for, and hopefully that can also spark Grady's development and whatnot. What is your thought on that?
I don't like Tyler Hero. I find him to be a very I mean, he's okay. I understand the upside and I understand why you'd want to do a deal like this. I just think that there's probably a better way to go. And I don't think there's any way in the world that Tyler Hero is going to impact winning in a way that Pascal Siakam even currently does. I would rather keep Pascal than trade for Tyler Hero personally.
But then,
I understand the
but then
spacing
also,
argument, the creation, the shooting, etc. But there's so much lost defensively, and you're already really, really barely holding water defensively, right?
but I think in this
Maroon Prince also
scenario,
saying
then
money
that
won't
that
work.
like, but that also
Pardon?
pushes, because if you bring in Tyler Hero as well, that brings up Scottie's usage, right? And hopefully he can score more points than averaging 20 points a
How?
game.
Tyler Hero is a pretty high usage guy, is he not?
Right now, Miami, because I guess they don't really have any other options, maybe. Whereas here in Toronto now we have Quickly, we have Barnes, we have other guys that, you know what I mean?
They have Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo are considerably more established guys in the league than Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. And even Scottie Barnes. I think Scottie's better than those guys, but I mean, that's just analytics talk, not by reputation. So in terms of pecking order, if he's not willing to take second fiddle behind Jimmy Butler, I mean, I'm not saying that he's not, but I'm saying like if he's taking this many shots with Jimmy Butler on his team, he's definitely taking these many shots with. I mean, he's going to come here thinking this is his team. I don't know, man. I think a guy who's 6'4", like 6'4", 6'5", or 6'6" with a 6'3" wingspan, doesn't really show me a great deal of defense. Like I worry about guys like that because I have to hide him now. And if you say like, at some point we're it's going to accelerate the growth of Grady, I think he takes up the space of Grady because I think he and Grady have a lot in common, with the one exception being Grady is just a much bigger player. He is 6'7", 6'8", with a 6'9" wingspan.
So what would your ideal be for like a trade right now for Siakam? Because we're thinking, I don't know, like either Miami, Golden State, we're even looking at the Kings. But what would
I understand the trade talk is very much on people's minds. I just want to get through this part about where Pascal ranks, and then we can certainly talk trades towards the end of this. To everyone who's saying they're voting for Scottie for AllStar, thank you so much. The channel with the super chat here voted for Scottie from 20 accounts while watching this live. Use incognito mode and create a new account using a dummy email address. Bless your heart, man. Absolutely, you can do this. Okay, Lane, are you ready for the is he better than Pascal Siakam debate?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, Nikola Jokic.
Easily.
Okay. Shea.
Easily.
Luka.
Easily.
Joel.
Easily.
Giannis.
Easily.
Tyrese.
Easily.
Braun.
Easily.
Scottie.
Easily. Oh, I think that one's a little bit more even, but I do love Scottie's analytical profile. So yeah.
Okay. Anthony Davis.
Yes, this year.
Most years. Okay. Kevin Durant.
Yes.
Alperen Şengün.
Gosh, he's
6
a monster. I know.
box plus minus man.
No, I'm not saying no. I'm just saying he's a monster. Yes.
Steph.
Yes. Is this? By the way, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask. Is this VoRP or VPN?
This is VoRP.
Okay.
Domas.
He's tough. I feel like Siakam's a better player, but I feel like he fits a better. But he fits a better.
This is more of a who would you rather have on your team argument than a who's a better player right now. Like as an asset, 1-for-1, do you make this trade? Right.
I feel like it's a 50-50 one. Just mark it. Yes. I feel like 50-50 should be marked yes.
Okay. Kawhi.
Yes.
Derek White.
No. I'm sorry.
Okay, cool. James Harden.
No.
Okay. Donovan Mitchell.
Yes.
Okay. Tyrese Maxey.
Yes.
Trae Young. As an asset, 25 years old.
As an asset, yes.
Like I can't stand him, but I'm just being fair. Jalen Brunson.
Jalen Brunson, yes.
Chet Holmgren.
He's insane, yes.
Jason Tatum.
Yes.
Fred VanVleet.
No.
Desmond Bane.
No.
No? Okay, cool.
No.
Anthony Edwards.
Yes.
Desmond Bane's 25, bro.
I know it is. I just don't know if he's going to get much better than he is right now.
Fair enough. De'Aaron Fox.
I feel like he's taking a step back this year, but still yes.
Okay. Mike Conley.
No.
DeMar DeRozan.
No.
Dame.
Not this year.
Really?
Yeah, he's putting up a lot of stinkers this year, and defensively, he's been compromised this year a lot.
Fair, but man, I mean, he's still better than Siakam, but he's 4 years older. Kristaps. 1-for-1 trade.
I just feel like he fits a system. But he is a dog.
He was killer last year in Washington too.
He was killer on the Wizards. You know,
he's younger.
Those. He is. Can we circle back to him?
Okay, sure. Zion.
Yes.
I can't stand him, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Jared Allen.
No.
Okay. Paul George.
You answer this one. I haven't watched a lot of Paul George this year.
Yes. Lauri Markkanen.
Yes.
Okay. CJ McCollum,
No.
Dante DiVincenzo,
No.
fair. Al Horford,
No.
Jamal Murray,
Yes.
Devin Booker,
Yes.
Brandon Ingram.
Keep it honest with you. I haven't watched a lot of BI this year. I don't.
He has holes defensively, but he's a much better offensive player. Julius Randle,
I'm gonna get cooked, but no.
okay. Karl Anthony Towns,
I feel like every time I watch him play, he sucks. But then when I just check out a random box score, it's like, damn, he put up 30 today.
he's 1 year younger.
Yeah.
He's a much better shooter, but
Yeah.
that's about it.
I'm gonna.
And a much better rebounder. That
Yeah.
much I'll give him.
Sure, we'll give it to him.
Jonas,
No.
Franz,
No.
as a 1-for-1 right now, you wouldn't trade him?
So I would, but here's the thing. I feel like Siakam's the better player. That's kind of what
I'm going. Okay, that's fair. Okay, fine. Paolo,
Banchero, yes. I think Paolo's a dog.
Alex Caruso,
No.
Rudy Gobert,
No.
Drew Holiday.
I feel like he's having a down year just because the role he's in. So I mean, I gotta say no.
Okay. Kyrie Irving.
No.
Okay. I mean, we might have run out of players. Really at this point. Brooke Lopez,
No.
Kevin Love, Malik Monk, Kelly Olynyk, Bam Adebayo.
Ooh. Yes.
Okay. Malcolm Brogdon,
No.
Jimmy Butler.
Impact? Yes.
Mhm. Okay.
Yes.
Tobias Harris,
No.
DeJounte Murray,
No.
Emmanuel Quickly.
That's impossible.
What's impossible?
Trading for him.
I mean,
Yeah,
fair
I know.
enough. But yeah. LaMelo Ball.
I don't know enough about him this year. He got hurt way too early in the season.
Fair. Nick Claxton.
No.
Cam Johnson.
No.
Jalen Johnson.
No.
Jakob Poeltl, DeAnthony Melton, or Tyus Jones.
No, I wouldn't even take that in a package.
Shut up. No. Austin Reeves.
No.
Nas Reed.
No. But Nas is a dog.
Fair enough. Okay. I have a feeling we're going to get a couple of surprises here somewhere. Jalen Williams. OKC.
J Dub. That one? Or is it Dylan?
Yep.
Okay. I feel like he's going to be better, but like not right now.
Cole Anthony, Clint Capella, Aaron Gordon.
No.
Okay. Isaiah Hardenstein.
He's having a hell of a year, but no.
Sam Hauser.
No, but he's a dog too. I'd love to have.
I agree. Tyler Hero.
No.
Isaiah Joe.
No.
Kevon Looney.
No.
Evan Mobley.
Gosh. I don't think he's a better player, but like if the Cavs were to come to Messiah tomorrow,
Defensively, dude.
But I don't think he's
defensively, like he's top 3 friggin' defensive player of the year last year. All right. So no to Evan Mobley. Okay. Chris Paul, Yusuf Nurkic.
No.
Michael Porter Jr.
No.
Okay. I know you're saying no to a lot of these guys, but be honest. You would trade Pascal 1-for-1 for like half of these guys. Straight up.
Oh,
you would. Because like you're saying he's not a better player, but trade value wise, he is really a lot worse than a lot of these guys.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Michael Porter Jr.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, like trade like one on like straight up. Yeah, but like is Pascal a better player? Obviously.
Than Michael Porter? Yeah, sure. Jabari Smith, Miles Turner.
Yeah, no.
Victor Wembanyama.
In a heartbeat.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a. God, do I not think he's a better player right now? I think he's a better player. I think he's just like he's like a baby giraffe.
Right. He might be better by the end of the year. Jaylen Brown.
God. He's one of those 50-50 ones, so yeah.
Draymond Green.
No.
Okay.
I've not spread in the
Jeremy Grant,
No.
Tari Eason,
No.
Dante Exum,
No.
Jaren Jackson Jr.
Gosh. I think Pascal's better, but yeah, I take Jaren. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, defensively alone, like Jaren struggles with passing, but now with Ja, he's going to be better. Herb Jones.
No, but I love Herb.
Me too. Chris Middleton,
No.
Kyle Lowry, Luke Cornett,
No. Not over
Brandon Pajimski,
No, but that kid's a dog.
Peyton Pritchard.
No.
Of course not. Duncan Robinson, Colin Sexton, Anthony Simons, Mo Wagner, Santi Aldama, Kyle Anderson. I'm assuming all of those are no, yeah?
Yeah, you're correct.
What about Mikal Bridges?
1 for 1, yeah, but I think Pascal's better. Here's the question, because I know a lot of people may disagree. Like, if they were on the same team, like, let's say they're the 2 best players on a team, which one's the number 1 option?
Fair. I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm assuming it's probably going to be Siakam.
Yeah, that'd be my opinion too. So that's why I'm going to say no. But, like, if you were to...
But the Nets are willing to build around him, and we are not willing to build around Siakam. So I think that's...
But they actually want Siakam, apparently, to build around him. So it's like, shoot.
Rip D Rose saying insane Pascal disrespect. Bro, you just put him over... He just put him over like 10 players that no casual fan in the league would ever put him over. So I don't think this is disrespectful at all.
I have 3 Siakam jerseys in my closet. I am not disrespecting, bro.
There we go. Dyson Daniels, Daniel Gafford, Jonathan Isaac.
Yeah, no, but if Jonathan can find a way to stay injury free, I would love to have him in Toronto.
Walker Kessler.
No, and I don't even think I would trade straight 1-on-1 for him. But that's not saying he's a bad player. Like, I love
Zach LaVine.
No.
John Morant.
Come on.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, don't be crazy now. Okay. Trey Murphy III.
No, but Trey's a dog. Man, Trey's another one of those guys like quickly, man. I just wish we had him.
I would trade Siakam plus stuff to get him. Onyeka.
Another one of those guys I wish we had, but no.
Royce O'Neal, Aaron Nesmith, Craig Porter Jr., Dwight Powell, Mitchell Robinson, Day'Ron Sharp, Jalen Smith, Max Strus, Jalen Suggs. Anyone?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Obi Toppin, Devin Vassell, Nikola Vucevic, Lonnie Walker, Ivica Zubats, Nikhil Alexander Walker.
Nope.
Jose Alvarado.
No.
OG Anunoby.
Gosh. No, but that'd be funny.
Okay. All right. Spencer Dinwiddie, Lou Dort, and Andre Drummond. I have a feeling we have run out. Darius Garland.
Yes.
Okay.
I love
Josh Giddey.
No.
Would this been your answer prior to that shit happening?
Yeah. I don't even hold I don't hold him against it yet either, because I do believe in due process. So, like,
sure,
out comes out and it'll be is what it is. If he did and knowingly knew that she was underage, hell yeah, he should be out of the league for life. Like, banned time, whatever. But, like, if it comes out that, like, hey, maybe he was lied to, used a fake ID, you know, like, I mean, fake IDs are so accessible nowadays, or she is of age for whatever reason and media just twist shit, then hey, he should be forgiven. But, you know.
Yeah. I'm not seeing any other names here that would even give me a reason to mention them. Unless, of course, you're a big Isaac Okoro fan. I'm just kidding. Okay. Let me just name out some notable names here that might be of value to you. Kyle Kuzma.
No.
Yeah, me neither. Can't stand that guy. Klay Thompson.
No.
Precious Achiuwa. Precious Achiuwa is a top... You know what? Precious Achiuwa being ahead of Cade Cunningham in terms of value of a replacement probably is the greatest own on Cade Cunningham in the history of owns. Okay, Cade Cunningham.
No.
Okay. Kevin Huerter.
No.
Okay, I'm trying to think if there's anybody else here who's like really good that's sticking out to me. No, That's about it. Okay,
Yeah.
so now it is up to me to go back and count. Okay, we got 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. So, in your opinion, Pascal Siakam, in a league where he is above the average age, is the 38th best player in the league.
Yeah,
And what's hilarious is if we actually sorted by value of replacement, he would probably be something close to the 38th best player in the league. Hang on, let me just check. No. If we what if we sorted by box plus minus? Would he be? No, wait. I want bottom up. What the hell am I doing here? Where's Siakam? What did I do here? Why is Precious Achua on top of my value of a replacement chart? That would be hilarious. Okay, Pascal Siakam is 42nd.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, he's not that far off from where you have him.
Not
However, this does somewhat put a bit of a hole in the top 35 thing that you said earlier.
Also,
I literally did this 25-minute exercise to prove to you that he's not a top 35 player.
Yeah, I mean, I also think if you is this with the first 7 games that you're taking away?
No.
Yeah, I think you take those away, he kind of jumps anywhere from like 35 to 38.
I think he would be exactly 38 if you're like for real. Like, yeah. Katie saying the longest I'm proving a point in history. Yo, I have endless patience. Don't test me. I will sit here for an hour and make a point.
What to see is how many guys in front of him that are in his range and how many guys behind him that are in his range. What do their contracts look like? Like how many of those guys are on the max? Because there's some teams that have 3 to 4 guys on the max, and they may be like, like a Porzingis or like Jaylen Brown situation where, those guys are. I mean, Jaylen Brown specifically. Not saying he's not a top 35 player, but like he's getting paid like he's a top 10 player.
Mm-hmm.
Or you look at
Well, here's something worth noting, right? I think James Harden could make a very, very, very assured case that he's a better player right now than Pascal Siakam. Like a very legitimate case. He has a 66% true shooting. You want to actually see the side-by-side comparison between these two? I think you would be losing your mind.
Also, I just want to trade for.
Well, that's exactly it. So on the one hand, you're making the case that you wouldn't trade for this guy, but you also said you wouldn't trade for Damian Lillard. And I don't think there's a GM in the league that wouldn't trade for Damian Lillard if they had Pascal Siakam on the other side of it. Like right now, if you put Pascal Siakam and Damian Lillard both on the trade block, which of those players is going to get a way higher offer? That's the player who's worth more. Now, you might say Dame's fallen off a cliff defensively, etc., whatever, but people still value his shot making, his creation, his spacing. Can you imagine this team with Damian Lillard? Even if the defense would be atrocious, like, can you imagine the spacing with Emmanuel Quickley and Damian Lillard splashing threes from all God knows where? And like, you can replace a little bit of defense through role players, man, but you can't replace Damian Lillard's shot making and gravity as easily, right? So I think like there's a lot of players that you've left.
Asset valuation now over who's the better player, right?
Well, exactly. That's my point, because like right now, if you make a case that Pascal Siakam is a better player than James Harden, I think you're wrong.
Yeah, he also skipped Franz Wagner, which I think is probably a better asset than Siakam.
Asset, yeah. But
yes, but okay. So let's look at the guys that we didn't bold and just ask the question: would you trade them 1 for 1? I mean, obviously with James Harden, you wouldn't make the trade, but you can acknowledge he's a better player. I hope,
right.
But he's 5 years older, and he's got all sorts of injury concerns and character concerns and all that stuff. Is he a winning player? But none of that has to do with anything. What we're talking about, we're talking about player. So I say, definitely I think James Harden's a better player. I think Derek White is close. People have a tough time adjusting their mind to that, but they don't see Derek White on a daily basis. They don't see him, but then they'll say, well, we haven't seen Derek White have to man an offense by himself. Well, we have seen Pascal Siakam man an offense by himself, and it sucks. It's a bottom 5 offense every year without fail, right? So I can see the understanding of like, this is a very elite role player versus this is a very not elite star. And I can value the not elite star as more than the elite role player, which is the Cade versus Evan Mobley argument, basically.
But again, if our goal is to make Scottie our best player, have the ball in his hands. We don't need more players like RJ Barrett or Pascal Siakam on his team who need the ball to be good, right? Like someone like Derek White or even Desmond Bane would be better than Siakam right now for the team.
For sure. And I mean, like in terms of just straight up talent, how do we not include Kristaps Porzingis? You said let's circle back to Kristaps, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like, how is Kristaps not a more valuable player than Pascal Siakam? He's a better rim protector. He's a better rebounder. He's a better shooter. What does Siakam do better than him? He creates.
Yeah. So what holds me back from the whole Porzingis thing is the one time,
Health.
the one time before Boston in his career where he was like put up as a number 2 option and said, "Go bring back home a chip." He fell flat on his face. Right now in Boston, he's probably a 4th option, third, 4th option.
I mean, that's not entirely true. He had one bad series in Dallas, but he also had one great series in Dallas. He's not a playoff choker.
No, but he was exiled for one reason or another for pennies on the dollar.
Same could be said for Vince. Organizations make bad decisions all the time. I think if you're looking at it from an asset valuation perspective, Franz is a bigger asset.
Yeah.
For sure. I think you could make a case that there's a lot of young players here that would be better assets. I think DeJounte Murray is a better asset. I think IQ is maybe not. LaMelo Ball is definitely a better asset. And I'm surprised he's not bolded. His creation and his on-ball stuff, thinking basketball had him ahead of Scottie Barnes in terms of their top 25 under 25. I mean, he's been injured, but like he's posting a 3.3 box plus minus. He's been better than Siakam this year.
But where do the injury concerns start with him? I mean, this is now 2.5 years in a row now.
That's fair. And there's nothing to suggest that it won't, that there won't be more of it.
Right. I mean, there's just so many variables, it's hard to say black and white. On one hand, you could say someone's the better player, but another person could be.
I'm not talking asset. Like Jabari Smith Jr. is a better asset right now.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He's not a better player. He's not even close to a better player, but he's a better asset.
There's about 100 better assets in the league than Pascal.
Well, therein lies
Claxton too.
Well, therein lies the question: how comfortable are you paying someone $45 million if there are 100 players in the league that are more valuable than them?
Correct. And this goes back to my point about let's see what his splits look like in the next 10 to 15 games. If he really does settle down into that number 2, and Scottie does take that leap not only in usage but like he's been doing this whole year, then I think there's a conversation to be had. Like, hey, if the Raptors go from 14 to 20 to in the next, 15 games, you go 10-5, now there's maybe a conversation to have about, hey, like, what does this look like to finish out the season? What does this look like trade deadline wise? What does this look like talking about if Siakam looks really good next to Quickly, really good next to Barnes? Are we really going to go ahead and blow this up and maybe be a play-in team when, maybe the top end of the East is weak this year? One of the better teams in the East has one of the worst defenses in NBA history. Maybe that's just food for thought. I mean, I don't think so. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little bit.
Right.
But I don't know. You have to look at it from all angles. That's kind of what I do.
Sure. Well, I mean, if we're doing the all angles perspective, I think people have a lot of difficulty adjusting to how good Derek White has been. In terms of just overall value, I think it's worth noting that he shoots 42% from 3. I think that's valuable. Yeah. He shoots 15% better than Siakam from the line. I think that's valuable. I think he averages more assists than Pascal Siakam. Per 100 possessions, he averages 1.2 more assists, more steals, more blocks, fewer turnovers, fewer fouls. Okay, he averages 5 fewer points.
I've been known about
that's the problem.
If you go, if you go back in the Toronto Raptors Facebook group from like when we were trying to trade Lowry, like he was one of the guys I was like, hey, if we're gonna trade Lowry, trade him for Derek White, and I got shat on for it. Like
that's the thing. I mean, some guys just don't look like stars. Look at this guy's face. Does he look like a superstar to you? And he's playing like one. Like his analytics profile projects he is having star impact. Right. Now, people don't adjust their mind to that because they think Drew Holiday is a star because that's the guy who they're used to seeing as the star. That's the guy with the big money. Right. Derek White doesn't also have a star personality. He doesn't do star things as a person. He's very unassuming. But that doesn't change the fact that he is a considerably better player than DeJounte Murray has ever been. Correct. But DeJounte has more clout. Why? Made an all-star team. Yep. I would love to see Derek White make an all-star team just so people can shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah, and
He's a really good player.
not to shit on Derek at all, because I think he'd be a damn good player regardless.
Mhm.
But how much is it that he's reaping the benefits of playing next to three other really good players too?
I have seen
You know?
these numbers hold up when those all-stars are missing. I have seen these numbers hold up when Jaylen Brown misses games, Jason Tate. It's not them.
Okay.
He was arguably their second best player in the playoffs last year.
Yep,
Okay. And I mean, that's high stakes shit. Okay. That's playoffs. Teams are gearing up for him. They're not letting him do anything. And he was their second best player. Last I checked, the player that we are defending here, or you are defending at least, or I don't want to say defending because it makes it adversarial. The player that you are supporting here in Pascal Siakam, at best, has been a number 2 option on a championship team.
Yeah.
That went to the finals, right? Derek White outperformed him in that role. So, I mean, what are we talking about?
No, that's fair. That's fair. I hate saying I want to kick the can down the road, but if we get to the trade deadline and let's say over the next 15 games this team is 10-5, you know, then what do those conversations look like now? That's all I'm trying to say is like let's evolve the thinking. Let's play hypotheticals here. Like let's have some fun with it.
Sure.
You know, are we going to go ahead and do that Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter and 2 first-round picks package? Like,
I'm just like, okay, so here's the thing. There's something about like, I don't remember who pitched this Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter thing first. I really don't. I don't remember who did it. I have a feeling it was me though. It just feels like something I would do. And I just hear it everywhere now. And it's the same thing with the Hawks package. And you know, sometimes you say something and then people are like, hey, you know, I'll go on social media and I'll say that in this group, or I'll go on Twitter and say that. And then at some point it just becomes the trade, the go-to trade. I would like to think like, I don't think anyone was saying RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley for OG Anunoby, right?
no,
I don't think that's a trade that anyone proposed ever.
I think a lot of people thought it was impossible. You know, like
Right.
even on lives in here, like I remember we were doing a trade show and you were crucifying this guy because he was even trying to get Jalen Johnson for OG Anunoby or Pascal Siakam. You know, and we turn around and we end up getting Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. You know,
You're saying and RJ Barrett, and it worries me that you're presenting that as a positive.
No. I'm sorry.
I'm curious. Okay, yeah, it's age positive for sure.
It is.
Yeah,
I think effort and attitude.
Relative to value produced, he is. Did you notice he was not on that list?
No, for sure.
Like I didn't get to him because he's below where I was at. Like he's below 200.
So I have a question for you. Before the trade went down, did you think that we would get a player even like just even in like a 1-for-1 plus picks for OG that would have been like RJ Barrett? Or do you think it would have been someone less than that? Not saying that RJ Barrett's
way better. No,
really?
like look, the value of this trade is almost 95% Emmanuel Quickley.
Oh, 100%.
So to me, the value is Emmanuel Quickley, and for me, like a lot of people were talking about Benedict Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard as central pieces coming back for OG. They also included guys like who else was included in this talk? Keegan Murray. They also included guys like who else was Jarris Walker. Like all of these players were thrown into the conversation for OG Anunoby, and so ultimately that was the thing. You're going to get a young guy. I like Emmanuel Quickley more than all those guys.
Agreed.
So that to me was just like, great, you win. It's awesome, you know. And you haven't had to wait long for the dividends to start paying off, right? 52% from 3.0 box plus minus. Like he's been solid. And I can only imagine he's only gets so much better.
Oh yeah,
right?
Comfortable.
Like once he gets adjusted to his teammates and learns like where they want to go and what they want to do, oh my gosh, like he could be.
And he's gonna unlock Pirtle again in the way
he already has.
Yeah, not exactly in the way that Fred did, but I mean, you just see the difference between, and not saying Scottie's a bad point guard at all, but you just see the difference between Dennis and Scottie pick and rolls with Pirtle, and then Emmanuel Quickley pick and rolls with Pirtle, right? I think it's a little bit different. I think it gets Pirtle a little bit more involved because I think 90% of the time when Scottie uses a Pirtle pick and roll, it's for him to get to the rim because he now has the mismatch. He can go one-on-one and get to the rim and finish strong, which he does.
Right.
He doesn't necessarily use Pirtle.
Well, I mean, like they've been using pick and rolls to force switches, whereas now they're actually using pick and rolls to score.
Exactly.
Like right out of the pick and roll, and they can and Quickly is just like is a guy who can launch so quickly. Shit.
W play on words.
I need to find a different word to define him, which is why I call him Manny Quick or IQ, because I just keep saying the word quickly over and over again. But yeah, like he's been incredible, and I think that there are very few players in the league, probably 55 to 60 players that I would have been like, okay, that's a good return for OG. Like 55, maybe 50,
Realistic options or just overall?
just overall.
Okay.
Like I'm very high on OG. I think
Yeah.
he's a very good player.
Same. I thought he was worth $40 million a year, personally.
He may not be, but again, this was the conversation we were having yesterday in terms of what is a player worth to you is actually what they're worth, right? So, for instance, you have LeBron James, you have Dwayne Wade.
Mhm.
Is it worth it for you to sign Chris Bosh to a max contract? Yeah. Is Chris Bosh as equivalently valued as he's equivalently valuable as those guys? No, he's not. But to you, he is. Same thing with Kyrie and LeBron. You have Kyrie and LeBron to max. Are you willing to pay into the tax to keep Kevin Love on the max? Of course.
Or Klay Thompson after that ACL injury. He
Bingo.
done
Him too, because Steph Curry is giving you so much value that it doesn't matter what you pay Klay Thompson.
Yep.
It doesn't matter, because as a duo, they're underpaid, which is exactly how I look at the Scottie, Pascal, and Scott. If you look at Scottie, Pascal, OG, and Fred in Scottie's rookie year, what is that quad? Do you call it trio? Quad. Is there a word? Quartet. What is that quartet? There we go. Huh. Words. Okay. What is that quartet actually making? Fred was making 22. OG was making 18. That's 40. Pascal was making 35. That's 75. Scottie was making 8. That's 82. You have those four players for 82 million. That is an immeasurable, that's crazy that they didn't do more with that. No wonder they made the playoffs, but they could have done so much more, but they had so much dead weight on their contract. They had guys who probably should have been more minimum guys. They were making 8, 9, 10 million. They didn't want to go into luxury cap. Kem Birch? Yeah, Kem Birch. So now, it's the same thing. You're looking at this roster. You got Otto Porter, who I love, but does not play very much. He's at 6 million. You have Thaddeus Young, who frankly should never play another game, who's at 8 million. That's okay. Then you have Gary Trent Jr., who's provided negative value for you all year. You combine those three players, that's Pascal Siakam's salary. You have another Pascal Siakam basically sitting on your bench collecting dust, right? And that's the point. So when you start combining, so you say, Scott, I could pay Pascal 45, no problem. Yeah, no problem. We can pay him 45 because Scottie's probably going to be worth more than his extension because he's going to be a rookie designated max guy, and he's probably going to make 45 to 50. So maybe as a tandem, those guys are worth 95, right? But why? Why handicap yourself that way? What benefit would there be? And it's like if Pascal was 24 right now, and he was just slightly, below where he is right now. And I'm like, I don't know if I would feel like paying a max salary for a guy who's 1.3 box plus minus and is kind of not so great defensively, and kind of like the OG argument, basically, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if this guy's worth that. But why would I extend OG to a max before I would extend Siakam to a max? Is basically comes down to timelines, trade value. OG's always going to have trade value. OG at 40 million is still an asset. Trade asset. The youth and his portability make him an asset more so than Siakam, in my opinion.
Well, do we see Siakam as a secure lock as a guy in a championship window if we become contenders in the next year, 2 years, or 3 years even?
You think we could become a championship contender in a year? I mean, certainly that would be great. That would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
If we could have a Kings-like turnaround, if Emmanuel Quickley is in fact our reverse Domantas Sabonis trade, right? If trading OG was like trading Kyrie's or whatever, and this just kickstarts some sort of new momentum, because we already got the fun vibes coach, right? Who's trying to change our culture. We just didn't have the roster for him to play the way he wants to play. So maybe one more tweak, and maybe you do unlock a 10-game winning streak or something. At that point, are you going toe-to-toe with Boston? I don't think so. So what's a championship contender? I don't know. Realistically, you're not going to be a championship contender until Scottie learns how to dribble really, really well and create in the half court really well. So basically, Pascal's a stopgap until that happens. And at that point, he becomes a floor spacer that can't space the floor.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting if they do end up moving Siakam, because I think you're going to have some nights where the offense is going to put up, have no issue putting up 130 points, and then you're going to have other nights where they struggle to put up 95 without him.
Fair.
It's going to be very interesting to see, because I think he's kind of the happy median, to where when you're playing through him, when he's got it going, yeah, sure, there is times where you will put up scores in the 130s. But it's not, I don't think it'll be as consistent as it will be without him. But you're also, especially with the new additions of Quickly and RJ, right? You're not going to be putting up 95 points. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you kind of subtract Siakam from that equation. There goes your leading guy in points per game for the last, 3-4 years.
I don't really care about that.
No, neither do I. But I just think there goes like your creation is what I'm trying to say. Not creation, but like there goes your guy who.
It would be very, very interesting for the Raptors if Pascal Siakam was just out a couple of games to see how much they miss it. Kind of like with Zach LaVine, right? Like everyone thought the Bulls offense would crater and fall apart without Zach LaVine. They got better, right? I think there are players like this that, when you pull them out, there's like a addition by subtraction by addition sort of thing that just happens. I think just replacing somebody in his position who just rebounds competently could unlock your transition offense so much more, your defense. I think it's hard to say in theory what someone is giving you and what they are taking away from you. There's also a possibility, and a very real possibility, that you play without him and you really miss him. You're like, oh my gosh, we are stuck. We are having to take a ton of bad shots and we have no one who can hit them. And all of our theoretical, playmaking is going nowhere because we don't have the space to attack because Pascal was drawing double teams. And, there's always that. There's always that possibility. I, however, very much doubt that.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's a little bit of both, in my opinion. I think some nights you're not going to miss them, and I think some nights you're going to miss them dearly.
I think we saw a little bit of what it would look like if Pascal was a drastically different player in the first 7 games. And I don't think it looked that bad. We were 3-4, which was competent. We had a really tough schedule to start. We had Philly, we had Minnesota, we had Chicago. Like we had a lot of like really tough defenses to face up against in the first 7 games. We beat Milwaukee. Like him playing as a more of a spacer role, it was fine. And there's nothing he was doing in that role that Keegan Murray can't do better. It's when you started going to all the dribble creation stuff that you actually started racking up losses, believe it or not. Your schedule softened and you started losing more. He started playing better, but you started losing more. It's a really strange thing to say that if you were to replace him with a role player like a Cam Thomas, that you don't get better. Because basically in the first few games, he was like a really, really bad version of Cam Thomas. Just standing in corners, coming up above the break, launching 3 after 3 after 3. I think he was taking like 5.5 per game. Cam would take 8, 9.
I mean, Dennis was also extremely hot the first 7 games of the year, and then he kind of went into Dennis mode.
But Dennis's role didn't change. Like Pascal's role changed after San Antonio.
Yeah, that's why we started losing, though, in my opinion.
Did I say Cam Thomas? I meant Cam Johnson. My bad.
That's why I think we started kind of slipping, is because Dennis's role didn't change when Siakam's role changed. Because as we talked before, like it always felt like it was either Pascal or Dennis or Scottie and Dennis. It was never Pascal and Scottie and then Dennis in the back seat. Like that Miami game, for example, that game was extremely winnable if Dennis just passes the ball. We win that game if Dennis just passes the ball. And there's probably 4 or 5 other games where you look at where it's like, okay, if Dennis doesn't take this shot or that shot, even though his box score looks solid and he passes the ball, we probably win that game too. I don't know if it's so much on Siakam as it is Dennis. I'm not taking all blame away from him, but I mean, as you see now, like, okay, Dennis's role has dramatically increased and it's actually better off the bench, a shit ton better off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually looks like a positive player now out there on the court.
He's been really good. He's been positive box minus the last 2 to 3 games. He's been really good. I think there's too many minutes of him personally, but like I get it. He's been better than RJ. He's been better than Gary. Yeah. He's been better than most of your players. So it makes sense to have him out there. I just feel like we're very small with him.
Yeah, that's Gary's fault that we're too small. That's Gary's fault that Dennis is getting too many minutes. I mean, you know me. I mean, I know Gary Trent Jr.'s family. Gary's a Columbus, Ohio guy. Love Gary. I'm not going to shit on Gary ever, but like it's his fault. Like he's the one that is
Fair
selling
enough.
the bag
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Kian had asked, when do I think Scottie's handle will morph to the level that it needs to be? I think it will happen this offseason.
Yeah, next year.
It might happen somewhere towards the end of this year. I know they're working on it even now, but I think it'll require an off season, a dedicated off season to working on that so that we can tie the game together. I talked about it yesterday. I gauge players not on whether they make or miss shots, but rather how open they are at the moment that they release the shot. So, for instance, I'm looking at Emmanuel quickly missing shots left, right, and center, but he's open. He's open all of the time because he's so quick and he's getting himself a clear window. So, really, at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to concern me is if you can't get to your spots clean. And Emmanuel quickly gets to the spots clean. It's just some go in, some don't go in. Like I'll gauge a shooter, like a movement shooter, on their ability to get open looks. And if they can't get open looks, they keep getting run off the line, or they keep falling out of bounds, or whatever. Guy always contests, then your speed is a problem. Your IQ, your movement without the basketball, the way that you run your defender off the screen is a problem. But if you're always open, and you're just missing shots, then that's not a problem for me. Grady's always open. That's not a problem for me, and his issue is not that he's getting contested. He's open constantly. And some people might say, well, then all the more horrible that he's missing shots. I would much rather he miss open shots than not be able to find an open shot. That to me would be concerning. To the specific point of Scottie, we were having this debate yesterday on Twitter, and we were just talking about how open he is. Like when he puts a shoulder into you and he does a little turnaround midi post up fadeaway, like he's so open. Like he's the most open player in the history of the world. Like he's got like 4 feet, 5 feet of separation. Even the long defender like Giannis is having trouble recovering. That to me is like, put this together. Put this all together. Put the smoothness of this move, get the repetitions up, do all of this, and you're gonna see a guy who's gonna put up 30 points per game so easy. And I understand everyone out there who still thinks like, okay, he's not a great scorer or anything like that because he's averaging 21 points per game. He's not a great scorer. But really, he's doing it so efficiently.
I think I also want to say this about IQ going back to him. I actually think just watching him for the last 2 games and getting the usage that Siakam got, like you were showing the stats the last 2 games, I think that's Emmanuel quickly is probably the only person on this Raptors roster that's actually a 3-level scorer, right? So if you are to replace
Scottie's a
Siakam
3-level
shots,
scorer.
well, he is, but he needs.
He doesn't
more
quite have the
rest, I think.
shiftiness and the ball handling that Emmanuel Quickly does, but I mean, he finishes much better at the rim than Emmanuel Quickly. I'll tell you that. And IQ is the best 3-point shooter. So really, like, I mean, they're both close. They're like both like cakes that have just been like 1 more minute in the oven. 1 more minute in the oven and it's perfect. They're really close. Both of them are really close.
But that's my point. If we give them the chance to get these shots and we just get like role players for Siakam to like, let's just say help defense to lessen the load on Scottie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our roster could take probably massive leaps and bounds, not just now, because I think Masai has shown us that he doesn't want to trade for picks, right? He wants to kind of.
Sure.
It might be because of we don't have a
So
draft pick
defensive
this year,
role
but
players basically is what you want.
yeah, like a Jarris Walker or just someone who can just play defense.
I don't think Jarris Walker is nearly as advanced a defender at this stage as a rookie as you would expect him to be, like that he can even cover for Siakam right now. Like Siakam is a bad defender for what he should be, but he's still an above average league defender. He's like a 60th-ish percentile defender across the board. He should be 80th. In my opinion, he should be 85th. If he tried really, really hard, he could hit that because he's nothing stopping him. Last year was all this talk about, well, he has to score the ball so much. How can you expect him to play defense? Well, he's scoring the ball a lot less now. He has a lot less usage, a lot less minutes. Where's the excuse now? His defense has regressed even further, right? So, anyways, to the point of Jarris Walker, I think you need more of like NBA veteran type role players. I'd be surprised if, a guy like Otto Porter couldn't step in if he could be healthy for like 20 minutes a night and probably give you a lot of value.
Yeah, you were talking about this the other day. How likely is it that we're not playing them just for an upcoming trade or something?
I think that's possible and probably very likely. I can't see a reason in the world why, Jonte Porter or Chris Boucher even, or Precious to anyone would really be playing over Otto. And he's not that old. It's not like he's that old. I mean, he's the same age as Dennis. What difference is there between these two players? So other than the injury history and their, future with your team, I think when the Raptors brought in Otto, they were expecting to be a very different team. Probably a team that was looking to shore up, some playoff depth. And now they are a team that is looking to grow and develop a completely new offense. And his role has changed and his function on this team has changed, but his value around the league is not lost on anybody. Like anyone who can read, the game and reads the advanced stats understands that surrounded by 4 really good players, this guy becomes like the most elite 5th option in the league, or one of them. And for a playoff run, like he's a guy who can add so much value in a playoff series. And I think that he will if they trade him to somebody. Like Indiana could use him so badly right now. So many teams could use him. It's what they're willing to pay for him. I'm curious. But yeah. Anyways, guys, thanks a lot for calling in. I really appreciate it to both of you. This conversation definitely went a little bit longer, but I'm very happy that we were able to discuss some of these things more in depth. Any final thoughts from either of you? I'll leave the floor to you guys.
Yeah, just one more thing I want to say.
Sure.
The whole like trust that the franchise puts on a player, right? We saw it happen when, Kawhi left, and there was a year where we were hesitant to give Siakam the keys. Is that kind of what's happening right now with Scottie Barnes?
You think the year that Kawhi left, we were hesitant to give Pascal Siakam the keys?
Well, we gave him the max, but like the media and everything, they were kind of okay. They're saying, "Oh, Kawhi left. It's more of a group effort rather than one guy dominate the ball type of."
When he came out like 27, 28% usage, he came out like gangbusters. He was really good. So I'm struggling to see how. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm struggling to see how he wasn't that good.
And I say this because in the bubble, Siakam said some comments saying that, when Kawhi left, no one told me I was the guy. And I think maybe that has something to do with, the franchise not kind of giving the keys to
I
the
think he
guy.
meant it more in terms of like being a leader on the basketball
Okay.
court. I think that's and kind of in the locker room. I don't think that there's any, even when Kawhi was here in the games that Kawhi was resting or load managing, Pascal was the number 1 option on the team. He averaged like a lot of points, a lot more points, and a lot more shot attempts. And it was made clear to him when he signed that max extension when Siakam when Kawhi left, and they were very happy to get him. And of course, he was restricted free agent, so there was no doubt that they were going to get him. But signing him to a max is very directly correlated to the championship run. And you don't go for the championship run. His numbers did not justify a max contract, in my opinion. It really didn't. The playoffs tilted the balance. The championship run, the work that he did in the playoffs. Why was he worth 35, 36 million and OG was worth 17, 18? I fail to see how one is 2 times better than the other than the fact that one missed the playoffs and one started in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So I think like he jumped at the right time. He got the keys the next year. He was given the keys in the bubble. He struggled. He was continued to get shot attempt after shot attempt, even though he was breaking everything, missing everything. It didn't matter. They kept going to him. And I just think, it's been his team since. He's been the shot leader, the usage leader ever since. No one has usurped him, not once. So people say they didn't build a team around him. Some people say they didn't give him the keys. I disagree. They knew who he was, is what I'll say. They always had their eye on a bigger prize. Yes, I get that. Because, hey, they traded for Kawhi. They didn't just trade DeMar for a whole bunch of picks and say, okay, Siakam, lead us. They found a guy. When they lost Kawhi, they started gearing up for Giannis. When they missed on Giannis, they started trying to create a package for Kevin Durant, right? When they missed on Kevin Durant, they tried to create a package for Damian Lillard. I'm pretty sure they tried to get on the Donovan Mitchell sweepstakes. I'm pretty sure they had their heart set on maybe Shai Gilgeous-Alexander can push his way here. They've always had their eye on a bigger prize because they understand that in order to win a championship, you need a superstar. and Siakam ain't it. It's just not it.
Yeah, as a first option for sure not.
As a first option, he's not it. But if I told someone this last year at this time, they'd say it was crazy. They'd be like, of course he's a first option. He's an MVP candidate. He's an all NBA guy. What are you talking about? And
Well,
that's
the
the
front
point. There's
office
like
knew this, right? That's
the
why
front
they didn't
office
trade
has
Scottie.
always known this. The front office has always known this because if he is what his most ardent supporters think he is, you trade Scottie 10 times out of 10 in order to
Right.
put a championship core around him. And that's the disconnect. And I empathize with Siakam super fans and supporters out there who are like, but why didn't they do this for him? Why are they doing it for Scottie? Well, why didn't they do it for him? It's a
Yeah,
conspiracy.
we could have
It's
got
not
Kevin
fair
Durant.
because they're completely different levels of prospect. They're different levels of player. And there are levels to basketball. I think that people need to realize and just acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And above that too, like draft picks do hold weight. Like if you're drafted number 1 overall compared to like number 30 overall, even if that number 30 guy's better, that number 1 guy's going to get more leash, right? Scottie is a very, 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 very good number 4 overall pick. Pascal was the number 27 overall pick.
I think that holds weight until a certain amount, but like, I mean, let's be honest. The Knicks just traded a number 3 pick for a former number 23 pick
Right.
who's
And I
older
think,
than him.
and that's my next point. I think it differs by franchise. I think different franchises hold different weights. Like the Raptors, we don't pick in the lottery very often at all.
Mhm.
Where a team like the Knicks have picked in the lottery like 8 times in the last 10 years, like high
Well,
lottery.
but dude, we have 3 lottery picks on our team. We might have more, but I'm thinking Grady, Scottie, and RJ. One
Yeah.
of them isn't playing. One of them is a 5th starter who
Yeah.
is not making. Like, I don't think we care. Honestly, I don't. I think lottery talent is lottery talent, and those guys who went high usually go high for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my point. I think like I'm just agreeing with what you said. Just
But I mean, like ultimately, Emmanuel quickly is a 25th overall pick. RJ is a 3rd overall pick. I think
When
we
was he-
value IQ more, and we're going to pay IQ more, right?
was IQ drafted 2020?
He was drafted. Yes, he was.
Yeah,
He was in
so-
that guard heavy draft.
So I don't. So okay. So I'm gonna try to equate this to something else. So 2020 draft, 2020 recruiting was very different. So
Because of
for
COVID.
example,
Yep.
I know you know nothing about college football. Maybe someone in this chat.
Correct.
There's this guy named Marvin Harrison Jr. Right? He is going to be the number 1 overall draft pick in the NFL this upcoming year. He's literally the Victor Wembanyama of football right now. Right? He's just
Okay.
a freakazoid. He's a wide receiver. And he was a 2020 recruit. He was ranked number 72. He was the 72nd best wide receiver in the country in 2020. He was a 4-star. He was not a 5-star. He was not a top 5 recruit. He wasn't even a top 10 recruit. He was the number 72 recruit. And he was
So
a 4.
he wasn't Victor Wembanyama then.
Well, he is now.
So he's like he's more like the Ja Morant
but
or the Derrick Rose or the Markelle Fultz of this draft.
He's a marquee name. So his dad's a Hall of Famer.
Okay.
But they missed on him so bad because of how weird COVID was, you know. I think they kind of missed on IQ the same way. I think if IQ got March Madness, he got the last 10 games of his college season, he's a top 15 pick easy. But because he was in the Tyrese Maxey kind of, not shadow, but Tyrese Maxey was kind of more the featured guy on that Kentucky team that
He's
year.
also the younger guy on that team.
For sure.
I think it's worth noting, like they were comparable college players, but one was younger and a little bit more athletic. I look at that draft as such a weird draft because you have these 3 guys now. Tyrese picked 20th, I believe. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton was a late lottery pick.
Exactly.
You know, Tyrese Maxey 20th pick or 21st pick. Emmanuel Quickly 25th. Our boy Malachi Flynn 29th or 28th, and then you have Desmond Bane 30th. I'm saying like to get like probably 3 future All-Stars. I'm gonna put Desmond Bane in that conversation because I think he'll be an All-Star at some point. Even if it's a 2-time All-Star, 3-time All-Star, I think he's gonna be in that conversation. To get 3 guys like, and I think IQ will be in that conversation as well. To get 3 All-Stars in the 20s is unheard of.
Agreed.
When's the last time that happened?
And that's my point. Is I think that the COVID year kind of draft class, recruiting rankings, whatever, etc., isn't really shouldn't really hold weight at the end of the day because there's guys coming out of high school.
Even if he's a top 15 pick, RJ was like a former number 1 recruit. You really are talking about very different levels of prospect. Even if he was recruited to hell, there's no way that Tyrese Maxey or Emmanuel Quickly or Desmond Bane or any of these guys hold a candle to guys like RJ Barrett. Like RJ Barrett was like, I mean, prior to going to Duke, people thought he was gonna be the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah,
Like, he was bigger than Cade,
yeah. I think that a good March would
or
have
he was as big as Cade. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I think a good March would have helped because you look at a guy like Dante DiVincenzo, right? If he doesn't go off in March, he's a second-round pick or undrafted guy. Instead, he goes off in March and he's what, the 15th, 16th pick in the draft?
Right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this though, like with the Halliburton thing, like about him being late in the lottery, right? The other guard that went before him was Hayes, right? Wasn't there like serious concerns with Halliburton's like shot form though? Isn't that why like he fell below Hayes?
I think there's still concerns over his shot form. He's just perfected it somehow, but he still struggles. I think he still struggles. I've seen him like get blocked. I've seen him, get rushed. I've seen him like really get pressured with length, and he's a big player, so he shouldn't. So a lot of people are very quick to say that, he was right to not change his shooting form. I have different interpretation of that. But yeah, that's definitely part of it. I think he was also a year older than other guys. I think that hurt them. I think some people had questions about his athletic potential. And then there was like, also, is he a point guard? Is he a shooting guard? Is he a bit of a cross? I don't know. I'm not like, during that time, I can't tell you. I was like, it might be the draft that I least was invested in because the Raptors had such a late pick. I didn't care. But yeah.
Well, my point is like, there's no way to like kind of tell in that situation because from what I've been seeing at that time, everyone was kind of happy with Hayes where he was picked, and they're not pissed about,
Killian Hayes.
Yeah, being drafted before, he was the other guard that went before Halliburton, right?
He went significantly before him. Killian Hayes was the 7th overall pick.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, look, Davion Mitchell went before Franz Wagner. No, he went after Franz Wagner. Who did he go? Wait, Davion Mitchell, who was picked after Davion that was good? Zaire has sucked so far. Josh Primo has sucked. Who am I missing? Moses Moody, Chris Duarte. That draft sucks after Franz, does it? Oh, okay. We have to go all the way to 16 for Alperen Sengun. The 2021 draft. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. Anyways, guys, thanks a lot for calling in. I really appreciate it. Great conversation as always. Really interesting ping pong here, and I hope to the listeners who Kian saying 300 people in here at 135. Yes, sir. That's what we're doing now. We get 300 people. After the post games, we're getting 800 and 900 people. I was like blown away. I was like 900 people. I couldn't believe it. So this is awesome. So thank you. Our community is growing. I think because a lot of people who've been tuned out of Raptor games are suddenly starting to tune back in. So that's really cool too. Yeah. Y'all have a great night.
Yes, sir. Have a great night.
You as well. Have a good
guys.
one, Rob.
See ya. Bye. Okay. And my final thing, which I promised I would do, and I'm going to do it, is I am going to show anyone who doesn't know how to vote how to vote. This is how you vote. Like that. And if you want to go one step further than this, feel free to vote for Manuel Quickly. And, if you want to vote a Canadian guy who's a really good player, give Shea some love. And I usually add Nikola Jokic. And because he's one of my favorite players in the league, I always add Christian Koloko. You don't need to do all this extra stuff for real. You can just vote for Scottie because he's the one guy on this team who really deserves it. In terms of reviewing picks, am I leaving something on the table? Nope. Review and submit. And voila. And you sign in with your ID and then you go from there. Okay? So I'm not going to type my password on a screen here, but nevertheless. Vote Scottie. Cutthroat Bob saying, I haven't voted since I was 10. Okay. Keon saying 1,000 in the post game next. Yes, sir. If we beat the Kings, I mean, it's going to be a super late live. I will do the live with Leo, by the way. So my live will be with, Leo Baez, a guy who covers the Sacramento Kings, is accredited across the NBA as a media member. generally we have great ping pong and just good conversations. So hopefully we can get his thoughts. He was very, very excited. Number one, he's a very big OG fan. He wanted us to trade OG to Kings pretty much consistently for like 2 years straight. He's wanted OG on that team. And he was very, very congratulatory when we made the trade, saying that, you know, he thinks IQ is going to be amazing for us and that he thinks the deal was a really good deal for us. So overall, I naturally, I agree. I think this has made this product a lot more fun to watch. And I would like to thank all of you guys for hanging out with us for 2.5 hours while we shot the shit about Pascal Siakam, and hopefully the first 10 minutes of this video are the beef of it. And I really want to encourage you guys to vote for Scottie and get your friends to vote and remind people to vote. And I hope the media can pay attention to this and see these numbers today, which were just embarrassing, and really just say, hey, like, if this is Canada's team, we need to get this message out to Canada, right? Kian saying no pizza talk today. Yo, man. Oh, and of course, triple votes today. You got to vote today. I mean, it's 3 times, right? Okay. The league manipulated Scottie's votes. I don't think that's necessarily what's happening. I was a little bit scared this would happen because a lot of people that I've been seeing in Toronto vote for Scottie. They're also voting for Giannis and Tatum. Like, you're basically canceling your vote. Don't do that. Anyways, votes are meaningless. Silver picks the players. That's not true. That's not true. And I think Scottie being a leader in these votes is actually not only an inspiration to him, naturally, if he reads that, hey, I'm top 4, top 3, I'm kicking, down Jason Tatum, I'm in this conversation. I think that could be like a great sign of recognition for him and also a vote of confidence for him from the fans. Also, look at it another way. If he gets snubbed, maybe he goes on a heater and kills the league for the rest of the half because he thinks he deserves it. I think he thinks he deserves it at this point. So it'd be great if you guys can get it going. So Barnes of Scottie saying quickly going for 30 tomorrow. That would be great to see. I mean, in back-to-back games, in 3 games to start the season with Emmanuel Quickly, you get Donovan Mitchell, you get De'Aaron Fox and John Morant. You get 3 guys, 3 undersized, 6-footish, 6'2" guards that, like, honestly have a lot in common with him. It's great. It's great. It's great to see the head-to-head. Anyways, get Scottie in. Absolutely. Vote for Harrison Barnes. Are you high? Are you drunk? I don't get it. And can I ask you, why do you always say every single thing twice? All your comments are said twice. Stop pressing 2 times. Anyways, y'all, take care. Have a good one. And if you haven't checked out that OG video, make sure to go give it a like as well. I'm pretty sure it's got like 20,000 views by now, or maybe 10,000 or something like that. It's some crazy numbers that video is pulling. My girlfriend was telling me, you need to make some shorter content. People don't have 2 hours, 3 hours to be listening to these lives and stuff. You got to make some shorter content. I agree. I'm gonna make some shorter content from now on. All right, take care, guys. Peace.